Well, good afternoon and welcome to our last session this weekend for Walt Cross. We've had such a good time, haven't we? And an amazing time of demonstrations this morning, and hopefully you all enjoyed a good lunch. And so now Dr. Cross is going to tell us about just how to deal with a myriad of different disorders and diseases that we tend to see. As you know, he's very happy to answer questions, so feel free to save those until the end. And also at the end, we will have a basket to collect any donations you might have for him coming out here to visit us. And so let's get started with a word of prayer. Lord God, we are just beyond blessed. Thank you so much. Thank you for the light that you've given us. Thank you for people like Walt Cross that go around and share the light and help people. Lord, we ask that your Spirit would be with us here this afternoon and that you would give Walt safe travels back to his home tomorrow. And we thank you so much. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, you know, I backed my pickup truck into the airport early Friday morning, and I thought, you know, blink my eye, I'll be getting back in the pickup truck. And it's true. It goes so fast, doesn't it? But I've had fun. It's a lot of fun. As we look at natural remedies and looking at how effective they are, it's just, I get excited. It's a lot of fun. After working in an industry where we dealt with challenges, and to see something that many times we see better outcomes and we don't have the challenges that we had in the other. So this afternoon we're going to do Old Mountain Remedies by diagnosis. If some of y'all got the DVDs, there's a whole set. This one would be under the blue set. The Old Mountain Remedies set. And we're going to cover, depending on how long y'all want to go, usually we don't finish. There's a lot more on that series, but we'll go as long as y'all want to go. All right. So if you want to get a hold of our contact information, you can take this QR code, and that will give you our phone number, our email, our website, our YouTube channel. And we put quite a bit on YouTube, and you can go to Facebook. We have at least 2-3 new things coming up on Facebook every day, and there's even going to be more. So you can do that QR code, and you can get our contact, and you save it just to your contacts. Okay. Let's see if everybody's finished there. And if you need business cards, we have business cards that y'all can come up and get afterwards. Okay, I see a few phones still up in the air. Okay, great. Okay. The clicker's not wanting to work. It is. Let's try it now. Oh, there we go. So let's, I won't go through all these at the beginning, but kind of give you an idea of what Appalachia still looks like today, some in the mountains. Yes, that's more of a Cades Cove look. And even where I live, there's still homes like that up in the mountains. We still go back to these 8 basic laws that we talked about earlier. We look back in history of where we had herbs, going back even back in Bible times. But let's jump right into it. Okay, I mentioned that I would talk about wounds right off, and this is a foot that an endocrinologist called me, and she said, Walt, it looks like we're going to have to amputate this foot. Is there anything we can do? And this is what it looked like on set. Look at the heel, look at how how deep it is. Not only does the individual have this wound, he has diabetes. He also has osteomyelitis, which is infection in the bone. This is what we're looking at in 2 weeks. This is what we're looking at 3 weeks, ready for a graft. When I worked in allopathic care, we did not, and we did a lot of wound care. I enjoy wound care. It's it's an issue that is an issue out there, and if you're aggressive, you can have some really good outcomes. But this is, we never saw that. Our Carrington products, our other issues, whatever we did, wound vac, all the tools that we used just didn't have this outcome. And what do? What do you think the first thing we did? You pray. That's exactly right. Wounds have to have several things. They have to have good nutrition. Those of y'all in healthcare know that. You've got to have good nutrition. You're checking the labs. You're looking for that nutrition. You've got to have good perfusion. You've got to have good perfusion. And as you look at wounds, you cannot have pressure. Now, obviously, we're on the bottom of the foot. It's not like it's on the coccyx, the tailbone, or the shoulders, or the hips, or the heels. And so we're not dealing with that type of a pressure issue. But you've got to have good perfusion. So the first thing is nutrition. The best tool I have found for nutrition is juicing. Juicing is like Hyperal or TPN, Total Parental Nutrition, hyperalimentation. And it's where you give a patient their nutrition from the pharmacy and it doesn't even go through the digestive system. When you eat a meal, it's 2.5 to 5 hours to digest. When you juice, it's in the blood within 15 to 20 minutes. It's very rapid. It's very fast. It's high quality. It's only high quality going in, and we see huge benefits when we do juicing. The next thing is he has osteomyelitis. So what's a good tool for osteomyelitis that y'all saw today? The Alimed, yes. So we gave him Alimed, a teaspoon twice a day by mouth. And then we go down to the foot. And the first thing we did is we did hydrotherapy, warm and cool. You can't do hot and cold on that foot. Excuse me. So we did the warm and the cool. Yes. And people go, no, you can't put that in water. Yeah, you can. Absolutely. But if you have someone that just freaks out too much and the doc's all upset, put it in a plastic bag and put it in water. But no, we put it directly in water. Did fine. And then the next thing we did is because of the osteomyelitis, so we did warm, cool, 3 minutes warm, 1 minute cool, 7 times. And then we sprayed it with Alimed topically because we've got osteomyelitis in there. We sprayed Alimed in there. Then we made a salve. Excuse me. That salve is golden seal, myrrh, frankincense. Sound familiar? And we did not have the pine sap where this gentleman was, so we used bee propolis. I usually use pine sap. Pine sap is amazing. We'll talk about that in a minute. And then we use aloe vera. And topically put that on. Now you paint that on. You don't fill it like you would filling it with betadine and brown sugar. Remember when we used to do that? You want to paint it on because in 12 hours it's coming off. You want it to slough off in 12 hours. And so when you make that salve, you want to make sure there's enough aloe vera there, the liquid, so that it's not dry, caked, whatever. You want it's like paint. You're painting it on. Consistency of, well, what would I use consistency of? Yeah, it's pretty liquid. I mean, it's not liquid, but it's paste. Yeah, but it's not dried. That's for sure. Then we put a charcoal poultice on it. Again, he has the infection, and we did that twice a day, morning and evening. At 2 weeks in, the physician called me, and he's in the Caribbean is where he's at. So we did this over the telephone. So he's at this point, we have much improvement. Do you see that? The physician said, Walt, he's walking all over town, barefooted. I said, get him on the phone. Let me talk to him. So he gets on the phone, and I said, mister, you can't walk on that foot. You've already dealing with osteomyelitis. We don't need to be dealing with another type of infection. It's okay to go outside, but keep that foot above your knee. And I thought, well, if I can keep it above the knee, at least it won't be down here. Just keep it up there. If it could visualize above the knee. And use some crutches, but you cannot walk on that foot right now. I mean, look at the injury that could take place. And so, not to mention the infection. So he did well, and then we got to this point here, and at the end of this time, a graft was put on. The diabetes was gone. 30 days. Diabetes was gone, osteomyelitis was gone, and the wound is healed. Now, what did that? God. God did that. And yes, he uses tools that he's given us, but it's very powerful. So this is kind of, clean the wound, hydrotherapy. It says hot and cold, and warm and cool on him. 7 times twice a day, the golden seal, the myrrh, aloe vera, pine sap, pine oil, bee propolis, whatever you have in a tool to use there. You can also use honey. Your poultices can be charcoal, they can be cabbage. Here's the problem. Wound care, you have to stop tobacco utilization. I had a guy that came in last week, and he had a dinky wound. That thing was small. Won't heal. And he won't quit smoking. And I said, mister, if you want that to heal, I said, you're dealing with physiology. You've got to open up those blood cells. Are you willing to, those vessels, are you willing to stop smoking? No. It's difficult, but can I make him do it? Does God make you do something? Did God make Adam and Eve and Cain? Did he make them obey? So we can't make people. God is a God of choice. And so we have information to make an informed decision, and then you have to allow the person to make a decision. Now, obviously, our children, some people have a weird idea that their children can make decisions, crazy decisions. Sometimes you tell your children, no, you can't do that. You agree? Yes. We're talking youngins. But adults, they can make their own decision. We give them the information to make an informed decision, and then they have to make that decision. Pine sap. Who's used pine sap? Pine sap is amazing. It's very expensive. Pine sap, there's some pine sap on the market right now that's running as much as $12,000 a gallon. $12,000 a gallon for pine sap. It's very effective. Pathogens cannot grow in it, and it heals the tissue very rapidly. You can use it on wounds, but you cannot use it on puncture wounds that you cannot clean out. Example, a cat bite, a dog bite, a nail wound. If you don't get it in there and irrigate it out adequately, the pine sap is going to heal the top of the wound so fast you're going to tunnel. And so y'all in wound care, you know what tunneling out is. And so you don't use it on those. Now, one time, who knows Franklin Cobos? Anybody know Franklin? Franklin was ER doc, and then he went into anesthesiology. And when he was in ER work, he came by, and he was at the office for a week. And Mary Lou was out working in the garden, and she tore her hand plumb open. It needed stitches. So I took her over to the office and for Franklin to sew her up. And he goes, we get excited, on doing stuff like this. And he goes, can I do something different? I said, what's that? He says, can I put pine sap in it first, then suture it up? I said, sure. And so, obviously Mary Lou said yes. And put pine sap in there, suture it up, and it healed much more rapidly than just normally suturing up. And he says, I've done it before. It works so good. And it's so cool to see an ER doc wanting to put pine sap in it, but he couldn't do that at the hospital but he did it at the clinic I was working at. And pine sap's great. One time, my youngest son, Carson, I'd gone to Hawaii for a convention and took the family with me. And we came back, and I was at the office working. I was actually in a meeting with one of my department heads, and Mary Lou calls me frantically and said, Carson had been sitting on, at that time he was maybe, 5 years old, something like that. Yeah, probably 5. And we had these high stools at the kitchen table. And we'd gotten some chopsticks over in Hawaii, and he was trying to eat with chopsticks. Well, he dropped one of them. It fell on the floor. So he tried to lean over on that big old stool, and he fell off the stool with the other chopstick in his hand. He crammed it in the back of his throat, came back up, crammed it back in again, and he was bleeding. And Mary Lou's, she's, scared to death. And I said, well, put ice on his neck, and I'll be home right directly. And so I rushed home, and we took him over to a pediatrician, and the pediatrician said, well, I can't suture that tissue. She said, but she says, that's really cool. And so she brings in other docs in the office, and they're looking at it and what all. And so I go back home, and I'd met a guy called Bob Jorgensen, and Bob had taught me to use pine sap. And how Carson allowed me to do it and not get choked is gag reflex, I don't know. But I took it and put pine sap that I gotten from Bob and put it on a Q-tip and went down and put it on those 2 places at his throat, and healed right up. We're literally within 3 days, you could not see any. It looked normal. And it is true, the mouth tissue does grow, repair a lot faster. But it's just amazing. Again, it heals tissue extremely rapidly, and also pathogens don't grow in it. So you don't have to worry about the bacteria and that kind of thing. Wounds, gum disease. There you are. So this lady comes in one day, and she's just a squalling. Y'all know what squalling is, don't you? Crying. And she's a squalling. And I said, what's wrong? She says, I just left the dentist. Now, this was back in 2004, 2005, so it's been a while. So prices are a little different. And she said, my teeth are all wallering in my mouth. And she says, you know how when you're starting to lose a tooth as a child, and your tooth is loose, and it's hard when you're eating the peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Remember eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in school? And you bite into it, and it hurts. She said, every tooth in my head feels that way. They're all loose and wallering, and they all hurt, and I can't eat anything solid. All I can do is just drink liquids. She says, I just left the dentist. He said, if he pulls every tooth in my head and gives me the cheapest set of dentures, it's going to be $3,000. Well, obviously, a lot more today. She says, I ain't got it. She says, what do we do? So what do? You pray. That's right. So I said, let's pray. So we prayed. And I said, okay, what if we do this? So I got some myrrh and some golden seal, and put a teaspoon of myrrh, teaspoon of golden seal in a glass of water, and made a tea. And I said, I want you to swish this for 2 minutes 4 times a day and swallow it. And then I want you to take this pine sap, and I want you to rub your gums real good. Put it on the gums, around those teeth real good. In the middle, between each time, because I didn't want to do it at the same time as the tea, because I wanted the tea to do its job. And then at 2 hours, she then put the pine sap. Do that. 6 weeks later, she comes in. She comes into me, and she's going... I said, Regina, what's going on? She says, look. She says, I just left the dentist. It's all the infection's gone. My teeth are good and strong. I don't have to have the dentures. Isn't that cool? That's cool. God is so good. He's given us these natural remedies that we can use. It builds immune system, cutting teeth. I have 6 grandkids, about to have our 7th, and all 6 of them have used pine sap for cutting teeth. It's excellent. It's better than any of the gels that my daughter or daughter-in-laws tried. and it just works very well for cutting teeth on the gum. Pardon? Plumb straight. Yes, ma'am. And so you can just, if the sap's up, you just go out there and bark the tree and put it on there. It's not a problem. If you have a wound, just go out there and bark the tree and put some pine sap on there. Yes, ma'am. Canker sores. Canker sores you can, but we'll talk about those in a few minutes. We'll come back to that. Activated charcoal. We talked about this morning and see how it looks like volcanic rock. Can you see how much surface area it has? So why it can adsorb as much as what we talked about? That teaspoon is equal to a tennis court. It's good for food poisoning. I have not found anything better than activated charcoal for food poisoning. You can take a teaspoon, tablespoon, 3 capsules, and it works very, very well. Usually food poisoning is gone within 30 minutes. So, I've got it in my bag out there. If I go somewhere on a trip, I get food poisoning. If a stomach bug, I've got it with me. It's ready to go. I've got it at my nightside. At my bedside, because sometimes you wake up and I'll take it and boom, it's gone. Yes, ma'am. Is there a microphone? The questions are afterwards? Okay, got it. Okay. Indigestion, it's great for indigestion, acid reflux, IBS. It's a detox, foot bath for gout. But here's the key. If you're taking a script, a medication, do not take it within 2 hours either side or it will soak it up. Young ladies, if you're in childbearing age and you take activated charcoal within 2 hours either side of your birth control pill, it is not going to work tonight. It's just the way it is. If you're on Lanoxin for tachycardia and you take it within 2 hours, it's going to adsorb it up. It's not going to, it's why we used it in the ER. It's why we used it on the ambulances for patients that overdosed. And it's just going to soak it right up. Charcoal poultice, we made that this morning, so I won't spend time on that. You can use flaxseed, oatmeal, psyllium, just some type of a binder. You can use the the charcoal in water, but you're going to have to keep it rehydrating. It has to be wet to draw. Again, you don't want to place it on an open wound unless you place a barrier, but we were told this morning another way to do that with castor oil, and we're told that it doesn't tattoo. Infected wounds, stings, bites, inflammation, gout, pain. We use it for cancer, eye infections, dental infections. This is from the CDC or CDCP. Antibiotic resistance is among CDC's top concerns. Upper respiratory infections account for 3/4 of all antibiotics prescribed by office-based physicians. Let me read that again. Upper respiratory infections account for 3/4, 75% of all antibiotics prescribed by office-based physicians. Now, upper respiratory infections, a lot of times, what are they? That's right. Antibiotics are often used inappropriately, according to the CDC. More than 10 million, who knows what more means? More than 10 million courses of antibiotics. That's courses, not individual doses. More than 10 million courses of antibiotics are prescribed each year for viral conditions that do not benefit from the antibiotics. Who's at fault? The patient. Doctor, I want a pill. I had a guy come in just recently. He is mad as a cat on a tin roof. He was mad. I said, what's wrong? He said, my boy is sick. I took him to the ER, and the doctor told me he had a virus, and he would not give me an antibiotic. No, he shouldn't. But I wanted an antibiotic. It ain't going to work. But he needs a pill. Well, he may not have an antiviral that's going to do the job. The patient wants that antibiotic. I remember one time I was walking down the hallway. This was years ago. And our chief of staff, we were walking down. And this older fella, he's in the early 70s. That's not as old as it used to be. And he said, Walt, I want a copy of every order for an antibiotic. I said, Doc, you're going to make them mad. I had 30-some physicians who had privileges. I said, you're going to make them mad. Why are you doing this? He said, because we are using cannons when a BB gun would work. He says, someday we're going to have superbugs. Well, guess what? He was exactly right. And that happened. Infectious Disease Society of America, the losing battle against deadly bacteria is a public health crisis. And I was mentioning someone just this weekend that I was reading something just within the last couple of weeks. I don't remember. I read a lot of places. But they were saying that we need to relook at antibiotics, go back to herbs, and see if there's something there that might work where the antibiotics are not working today. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? I mean, that's from credible medical literature. Wait a minute, that was an interesting statement I just said, wasn't it? That's funny. Infections: allicin, golden seal, root, vitamin C, olive leaf extract, colloidal silver. Who's ever used colloidal silver? A great tool. I like using colloidal silver. I use probably more colloidal silver for our infections than I do for myself than I do golden seal, because it's quick. I can just spray it right in there. Works good. I also use golden seal sometimes. It's just because of my contacts. Sometimes I'll get an eye infection, as much garbage I'm in with the fire department. Nutrition, manage stress, hydrotherapy, charcoal poultice. Garlic. Allicin. This is from the NIH. Allicin is an active ingredient of garlic that has antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, antiprotozoal activity. Allicin exhibits various biological properties such as like antimicrobial, anti-cancer, antioxidant, immunomodulatory, anti-inflammatory, hypoglycemic, and cardiovascular effects. That is the Allimed that y'all drank today when you had the rocket fuel. Allicin. It's a natural OTC that you don't have to have a prescription for. We use it for MRSA, vancomycin resistant, viral infections, bacterial infections. It lowers cholesterol, the common cold, dysentery, E. coli, salmonella, heartburn or acid reflux, stomach upset. I don't use it for all that. I use stuff that's more economical, because Allimed does have a little cost to it. But I use it as the big, dynamite I talked about earlier. IBS, IBD, it does work very well for H. pylori, C. diff. Did you know over 50%, it's reported that over 50% of the world population has H. pylori? It's amazing. I add a probiotic to that for the H. pylori. C. diff, diverticulitis. Diverticulitis is a problem of diverticulosis. Diverticulosis is a problem of where you just didn't chew your food up probably too well, and you had constipation. You pushed a little pouch into the side of the colon, is what gastroenterologists tell me. And I've asked gastroenterologists, can I reverse the diverticulosis? And they tell me yes, with surgery, but you're going to have more problems probably with the adhesions. And so it's probably better not to do that if you don't have to do that. So you have this little pouch in the side. Now, what turns diverticulosis into diverticulitis? Well, they used to say seeds and nuts. And then about maybe 8-10 years ago, the gastroenterology community said, oh, that was a fallacy. We were wrong. It's only constipation. Well, constipation will do it. But what happens, they started telling their patients, oh, you can have nuts and seeds again. Then guess what happened? We started seeing diverticulitis again, worse. And so I really believe it's all three. Manage the stool. Don't have constipation. Don't eat nuts and seeds. I mean, we're talking strawberry. We're talking, tomato. That can give you diverticulitis. So what do you do for diverticulitis? Well, here, allicin can be beneficial, but the best thing I have found for diverticulitis, usually diverticulitis is many times gone within 24 hours, maybe 48, is make an infusion of golden seal, 1 cup of water to 1 teaspoon I'm sorry, I'm wrong there. Back up. 3 capsules of Golden Seal 3 times a day. 3 capsules, Golden Seal 3 times a day. And usually within 1 day, maybe 2, we see diverticulitis gone. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, amazing. You can see how Golden Seal is a tool to have at hand. It really is. The immune system, the 3 big S's: sugar, sleep deprivation, and stress. Those are the 3 guys will take out your immune system probably the fastest. Sugar. Who has Neil's book, Proof Positive? In there, Neil says that a 12-ounce soft drink will take out your immune system 50% for right at 4 hours. A 12-ounce soft drink will take out your immune system right at 50% for 4 hours. Now, you add a Snickers bar. Now, I'm not talking about the Snickers bar they have today. I'm talking when we were kids. You know, that guy. You remember the ones we'd take to school if we were lucky? We had a Snickers bar. My dessert for school was a box of little raisins. But the Snickers bar, that little Snickers bar, and that 12 ounces of soft drink will take out 13 of 14 white cells, according to Neil's research in that book. Only 1 white cell out of 14 white cells is still working. You just anesthetize 13 white cells for the next 4 hours. And so you can see how folks who drink soft drinks, I didn't grow up this way, y'all. You know, I grew up typical, eating, just standard way of eating. And it wasn't until I changed 26 years ago. When I worked in regular healthcare, I still did a lot of teaching and training, and I go to meetings, and I get up in the morning early, and I may not have breakfast because I had to get up so early to travel. And so I drive, and I had to have some energy. Now, I never liked coffee. I didn't like the taste of it. So I'd pull off at a gas station, and I'd get me a Dr. Pepper, and I'd get me a Snickers bar. And so that was my fuel. Well, depending on how far the trip was, I made at least one of those stops. And then I get to the meetings. And what do you think were at the meetings? Meetings are different today. Oh, yeah, donuts, or they may be Danishes. And so I'd grab me a Danish, and I'd eat on that, and I'd get me a soft drink, They had a few waters, but mostly soft drinks out there for us. And then I took on more. And then old Henry over there, hey, Walt, how you doing? How you doing? Oh, doing well. And I'd finished eating on my donut or whatever, and I killed my immune system. See how I got sick? Sugar is huge. We know that, and go back to Proof Positive, Neil says that an average milkshake takes out your immune system, I believe it's 72%. And a piece of cheesecake takes out your immune system about the same, 72%. That's huge. Sugar's big. And then you see stress. And now this is in Proof Positive too, I believe. He says that 1 minute of anger will significantly wipe out your immune system for 6 hours. So I was teaching a class with a buddy of mine. He's a neurologist and specializes in brain function. And I said, Arvo, Neil says this, and Arvo used to work with Neil. And he said, Neil says that 1 minute of anger will take out your immune system significantly for 6 hours. Physiologically in the brain, are we talking very similar physiology of taking out your immune system, anger versus stress? He goes, oh yeah. I said, so can I change that to 1 minute of stress will significantly take out your immune system for 6 hours? He goes, absolutely. Do you ever get 1 minute of stress? Major stress? 1 minute of anger? Maybe not anger, but definitely stress. Boom, you just wiped out your immune system significantly for 6 hours. Huge. Check your vitamin D level, nutrition, exercise, universal precautions, wash your hands, wash your hands, wash your hands. But now we're learning that we can wash our hands too much. Garlic, allicin, podiarco, red clover, echinacea, golden seal, elderberry, vitamin C, olive leaf extract, oil of oregano. Now I should have that right up there at the beginning. That's a great one. It really is. Olive leaf extract is a great antiviral. It really is. Boils. So now you can see the word and hear me say it. You know I'm saying the right thing. Boils are usually a blood issue. Skin issues are usually a blood issue. Yes, you can have poison ivy, poison oak, poison sumac, get a scratch, but where you have psoriasis, eczema, rosacea, rashes, boils, those are usually issues that are coming from problems in the blood. You've got to clean that blood up. And one of my favorite is chaparral, burdock, red clover, but chaparral is my favorite blood purifier. Do dogs get mange here? Okay. So you can give that dog chaparral and it will clean up the blood. Now here's how you know. Adult dose will be 3 caps 3 times a day. Now if you got a dog that weighs 50 pounds, that'd be half that amount. 75 pounds, 3/4 that amount. 25 pounds, 25%. 10-pound Chihuahua, 10%. And that's how you know how much to do. Or if I'm dealing with a horse, I'm going the other way. I'm doing, let's say I had a lady come in and her horse, did I tell you about the horse that had the red eyes? She comes in, she's crying, and she says she's a physical therapist, and she's a squalling. And she said, I just lost a horse a few weeks ago, and I got another horse. The vet said it's dying right now and won't live. It's laying on the stall, on the floor. Eyes are plum maroon. That's not good. White's the eyes of maroon. And she said it got into something. It was like cherry, but it wasn't cherry. And the horse was dying. And the vet said it would not live. So what do you think we did? We prayed. I said, okay, I had a billy goat and a nanny goat who got into rhododendron, and we gave them activated charcoal, and it was very successful. Would you like to try that? Absolutely, let's do it. And so I got her some activated charcoal, and so we went up. Here's adult dose, and we went 12 times that because the horse was 1,200 pounds. That was Thursday. Friday she comes in. Oh, she was much nicer, happier. And she said, my horse is standing in the stall. It's taking some water, taking some feed. Eyes now are no longer maroon in color. They're now normal jaundice in color. She said, I want to attack the liver. I said, okay. Here's what we do for humans. Here's what we do for dogs. But I don't know if we can do it to a horse. Call the vet. So she called the vet, and he thought she was calling him to tell him that the horse had finally died. And she says, no, it's standing, taking some food, some water. He couldn't believe it. She says, I want to try, what do you think? Liver, milk thistle, and dandelion root. He says, good thing you asked. He said, a cow would kill it, but a horse can do it. So all I had was 1 ounce bottles. Now, an adult dose is 2 mLs TID 3 times a day. We're going 12 times that. So this lady walks out with this huge pile of 1 ounce bottles of dandelion root and milk thistle. She gives it to it on Friday, on Saturday, Sabbath, on Sunday. Monday she calls me. She didn't even come in. She called me. She said, the horse is out in pasture eating, drinking. It's doing fine. Jaundice in the eyes are gone. Isn't that cool? Yeah. But on animals, always double check because some things will kill certain, like lobelia. That could kill a dog. Dog can't take lobelia. So you got to look up animal specific. Essential oils. Be careful with your cats. Usually cats are smarter than dogs, which some folks have a hard time going with that. But cats will identify it and stay away from. A dog, you just stay and just lay down and have a good time. But the cat seems to know and will leave. But if you close the door with the cat in a room with essential oils, you can kill that cat. So be careful. Charcoal poultice is good. Allison, nutrition, water, very important. Insomnia. This is the hard one, guys. And we've talked about this already. Insomnia is so difficult right now. It's since COVID, post-COVID, we're having even much more difficult times with insomnia. valerian top, skullcatch, passion flower, magnesium, magnesium oil. I'll put magnesium oil on the bottom of my feet. That helps me. To me, there's the issue of falling asleep, and there's an issue of staying asleep. Two different issues. My problem is falling asleep because it's hard for me to turn this thing off. I'm used to having like 200 and some employees, and you know I'm a go-go. And so I got a whole list that I had to do today, and I didn't touch sometimes one item on that list because I have so many phone calls, so many people coming in. I may have a fire call, and that drives me nuts. I did not get my list done today. I didn't even get one thing on that list done tomorrow. I got another list for tomorrow already, and that just drives me crazy. So Mary Lou, she knows me, and so she says, here, take 2 of these. And she gives me 2 ashwagandha. I have found the best ashwagandha is using the ashwagandha by Terry Naturally. You keep hearing me talk about Terry Naturally. Obviously, I use a lot of other things. We sell over 3,500 items. But I really like the effect of Terry Naturally's ashwagandha. It works better for me than than any of the other ashwagandhas I used. And everybody's different. Now, that's one problem, falling asleep. The next problem is staying asleep. That's what a lot of people have problems with. Magnesium helps for some people there. I don't have it on here yet, but the melatonin that we talked about, that, doing, say, 180 milligrams of melatonin, chamomile. Well, here's a big one. Don't eat a big supper. Don't eat supper at all. You'll do better. Supper, that digestion's going on, if you lay down within 3 to 4 hours, that food has a propensity to putrefy, ferment. That's going to affect the blood. And actually they found people who eat late and the next morning there's still food in the stomach, just because your body just shuts down at night. And so it's best not to eat it. Plus, if you eat a big supper, your body doesn't produce as much melatonin. Tryptophan, B complex, just calms you down. And sunshine. Sunshine is going to, as sunshine comes in the eye, it stimulates the pineal gland to convert tryptophan from the flaxseed you ate this morning into serotonin. And then if you go to bed, if you don't eat a big supper, if you go to bed on time, then the pineal gland converts the serotonin into melatonin. And so sunshine's important in this. Stress. Rest, nutrition, water, exercise, trusting God. Trusting God's a big one. Let me share something with you. Lady comes in. Her son had done something terrible, awful, was in prison, would be there the rest of his life. She was told. She'd never see him again. Would that not be hard? I can't imagine. Still alive, but can't go see him. That stress was giving her other health conditions. So I said, okay, let's do this. So what you do is you take a piece of paper and you draw a T. Y'all in business know what a T-bar is, where you do an after action. What worked well, what didn't work well. Okay, so you do the T. On the left side, you put controllables. On the right side, you put non-controllables. Now, a thing you can do, it ain't gonna fix it. On the left side is something you can do. An example, finances. At home, you can choose if you leave the lights on all over the house all the time. You can turn them off when you walk out of the room. You can choose what kind of furniture you buy. You can choose what kind of car you buy. If you want a high expensive car or a more economical car. Those are controllables. A non-controllable is you better pay the taxes. That's a non-controllable. So I told the lady, I said, okay, let's write down your stresses. She wrote her stresses down on one piece of paper. Now on the other piece of paper, you're going to draw that T. On the left side, I want you to put those items that you can control on the left side. List them down through there. On the right side, you're going to put things that there's ne'er a thing you can do to fix it. Crying, squalling, fretting is not going to fix it. Your boy's in prison. There's nothing you can do about that. Put that over there. So she did. And some other items. I said, okay. Now what I want you to do is go home. And then when you get home, I want you to take that list and tear it plumb in half. The right side that says controllables, I want you to set that down on the table. The one that says non-controllables, I want you to go to a quiet place and sit down and talk to God. And I want you to ask God if He will take that. I said, do you love your son? She says, absolutely. I said, God loves you even more than you love your son. He will take that list from you. So she went and she did that. And then what would happen? I said, do not take that list back. There's some people who like you just to waller in it. You know what I'm saying? They have OCD on that kind of stuff. Do not take that back. Now, Satan did come back to her and say, your boy's in prison, never going to see him again. And so what she did on her own, as it would in her mind, a thought would come back. She says, Satan, that's not my problem, that's God's. Now go and get out of here. That's what she'd say every time. Now, she used something that worked, that I shared with her, that is guaranteed 100%. It's the only thing that I can guarantee 100% except those 4 things I talked about the other day. This one I can guarantee 100%. Had a lady, I'll come back to that story. Had a lady come in. It was a Friday morning. It was back when it was in 04. And Mary Lou was at home, homeschooling the kids up on the mountain. And I was taking care, I had 4 ladies there I was taking care of, helping them. Lady comes in. She's in her late 30s. Walks in. I catch her in the peripheral coming in. She walks across, comes in front of us, comes in, walks behind me, and walks right behind the counter. You Walt? Yes. Now I'm busy talking to these other 4 ladies. She just butt right in. You Walt? Yes. She said, they told me you could help me. Okay. And you could look at her, she looked like a whooped dog. Pardon? A whooped dog. A whipped dog. She dressed like a gypsy. She had some weird thing stuck here. Her hair looked like Princess Leia, something weird. And you remember my dad taught me how to look at a cow? You know, look at their eyes, look at their face, look at their gait, and you could tell if they're a sick cow. Well, she is a sick woman. It wasn't good. She says, I need to talk to you. It was Friday. I was by myself. We closed early. And I said, can you come back Monday morning at 8 o'clock? And at that time, we opened at 10. And I said, I'll be glad to help you. She was there Monday morning at 10 o'clock. Right on time. She comes in. No, 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock. No, I'm sorry. Let me get my 8 o'clock. She was there at 8 o'clock, right on time. She comes in, and she sits down. And I sit down. We're facing each other. And so I start doing a history. You know, what's going on, her nutrition, her lifestyle issues, her exercise, and all those things you do in a history. Her weight, her age, all that stuff. And she's butted in. She said, I need to tell you something. Yes? I can make things levitate. Do you believe me? Yes, ma'am, I do. Now, is that a sign? Is that a problem? Absolutely, it's a problem. So up here, I start praying. She didn't say nothing. I was just waiting for her to say something else about how she levitates. Didn't say nothing else. Okay? So then I continue on with the history. I'm going on probably another 5 minutes, and she says, I need to tell you something else. I said, what's that? She says, see that auto parts store across the street, O'Reilly's Auto Parts? Yes, they just built it. I've never been in there, but I can tell you where everything is in that store. Do you believe me? Yes, ma'am, I do. Do I have confirmation? I have confirmation. And so I kind of changed gears a little bit. Now, she had told me that she had been to psychiatrist and the drugs didn't work. She told me that she'd been to psychologist and drugs didn't, and the psychologist and the therapies didn't work. She told me that she'd come because she's having some problems with her head. Can you see why she's having some problems with her head? And the drugs didn't work, the therapy didn't work, and someone over in Sevierville told her maybe my herbs would help her head. And so I started changing gears. And I started talking, and I said the word Jesus. That woman started shaking like she was having a seizure. I said, "What's wrong with you?" She says, she points to her head, "They don't like that word." Do we have confirmation? We do. And so we continue on, and I'm praying. I'm praying. And so we continue on, and I thought, well, let me try something. What an opportunity. And I said, God, something about God. And she did not shake. Interesting, isn't it? And then I come back around several minutes later, and I say Jesus' name again. She goes to shaking again. And it showed me, at least in my mind, how much Satan hates Jesus more than God. He's so jealous of Jesus. She told me that, I told her, I said, "Ma'am, you're possessed." She didn't say a word. She told me that they talk to her all the time. She told me that at night she gets picked up out of bed and thrown against the wall. Her husband, he confirmed that later on when I met him. And things that I won't go into, that I did not even know that happens. And so I told her, I said, "Here's what I want you to do." So I gave her a bag of flaxseed. I gave her a bottle of B-complex. I gave her a bottle of trace minerals because she didn't bring any money with her. And I said, I want you, between now and next Monday, I want you to take these. And then every time they start talking to you, I want you to say, "In Jesus' name, Satan, get thee behind me." I said, I don't care if you say it 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you say it until they quit talking to you. She said, "Okay." And as we were walking out, He does some interesting stuff, doesn't He? As we're walking out, I remembered 2 Gideons had come the week before and gave me a New Testament to give to somebody. And so I walked over and I picked it up. It was a little white New Testament, and I gave it to her. And I said, "Ma'am, I want you to read this too between now and next Monday." Okay? And she leaves. Next Monday she comes in, and she looked like a whole different woman. She looked normal, like y'all. And she still dressed real weird, and her hair still was real weird, but, looking at that face, she looked normal, at peace, not tortured. And I said, "How's it going?" And she said, "They don't talk to me no more." "Why don't they talk to you no more?" "Because I said what you told me, and they can't talk to me when I say that." I said, "Did you have a chance to read that little book I gave you?" She said, "I did." She said, "I especially liked the first 4 books in that book." That's a New Testament. Especially means she'd read more than. I said, "Why'd you like them first 4 books?" She says, "Because it talks about Jesus." And she did not shake. And what I learned out of that situation is that was what I shared with her. God gives you things to say. I hadn't thought of that on my own. But I just remembered Jesus said that's Satan. And I have used that so many times with people ever since 2004. It'll be 21 years next month that happened. And every time those people tell me that works. So I told this lady who has the boy that's in prison, when Satan comes to you and he keeps tormenting you, you say that. You say that until he leaves you alone. And she found that Satan quit saying, "Your boy's in prison," and he doesn't do that no more. He doesn't do that anymore because he knows she's going to come right after him. And he doesn't bother at that. She's at peace. Well, here's a bonus to that. Not long ago, she found out that he was, now this was back many years ago, this took place. I say many, not many, but a good 10 years ago, 10, 11 years ago, when he got put in prison. And just recently, he had to go to court. And she found out. He told her he was going to court. So she gets in this car that shouldn't have gone from county to county. She drove across the United States to that prison. And she sat down. She was allowed to come in. She sat down, she said, on this side right here, right near the front where you are, and sat there. Her boy come in. She got to see him. The judge is dealing with the situation, whatever the situation was. Finally made a decision. He told the boy to get up, he could leave. She stands up. She says, Judge, I ain't leaving till I can hug my boy. She said he looked at her. He looked at the boy. He looked at her. He looked at the boy. He looked back at her and said, Ma'am, go hug your boy. Isn't that so good? Is not God good? Tremendous. And so when you have stress, you don't have demons inside your head. Just think how much easier it will be for you to deal with those stressors with the power that God gives us. It's huge. Oh, going back, there is flaxseed, kava. I like kava because these other guys, chamomile, hops, skullcap, valerian, they make you sleepy, and I believe people need to work. And so kava helps, but you don't get sleepy. Be complex. And I learned be complex from an old doc in 1978 at Florida Hospital. He said, Walt, when you got a patient that has major stress, he said, this is the best thing I've ever found, and I've used it ever since. I had forgotten that's what the pediatrician had given me at 10 years old. Lithium orotate, trace minerals, magnesium, classical music. Neil talks about classical music for stress and depression. Bleeding. In addition to direct pressure and elevation, cayenne pepper works extremely good. Comfrey root, comfrey leaf, European goldenrod, shaved grass. There's a number of things that you can use. Cayenne pepper is my favorite, in addition to elevation and direct pressure. Bleeding fibroids, we talked about this morning. Shepherd's purse is my favorite. Yarrow. Yarrow's another really good one. Red raspberry, lady's mantle, and crane's bill. Those guys are really good to stop the bleeding. A lady come in one time. She said, my boyfriend and I are going out on vacation, and just timing's off. Can you help me change my timing? Your boyfriend? No, ma'am. Well, even if it wasn't her boyfriend, even if it was her husband, you just don't mess with female hormones. There are enough problems as it is. Don't go throwing this kind of stuff in and messing with it. Let God's timing work as it works. Bleeding, nosebleed, raise the arm above the head, cayenne dissolved in hot water. You can squirt that up in the nose, snort it up in your nose. Extract with witch hazel. Something they taught us in MS school is to take crushed ice and put it up under your lip and against your gum, and that causes the vasoconstriction to help stop the bleeding. But don't stuff stuff up in there. Bleeding ulcers, like ulcerative colitis, ulcers in the stomach. You can, this is one way. I'll share another way. Start with a half a teaspoon, 3 times a day of cayenne, that is. Work up to a teaspoon 3 times a day. Best thing I found is just take 3 capsules PRN. 3 caps PRN. And that will stop a bleeding ulcer. Cayenne pepper, yes. Burns. There's types of burns: heat burns, thermal, cold temperature burns, electrical burns, chemical burns, radiation burns, friction burns. I won't go into the details here, the types of burns, but let's look at how to treat them. Cool the burn. Place under cool running water for 5 to 10 minutes or until pain stops. Textbook, burns will continue burning in for up to 12 hours. That's textbook. That is why in the summer, at 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, you're cooking. because it took 12 hours to really start you cooking. And the biggest thing is to cool that burn down. Very important. If you can't place underwater, use cool compresses. Do not put ice directly on the skin. Lavender essential oil is the best thing I know of to stop the burning process. Lavender essential oil is amazing to stop it. There is one other item. It comes out of South Georgia. It comes from turpentine. It's hard to get, but it works very effectively like the lavender. But lavender, ladies, keep it in your kitchen. If you get burned on the stove or something, just pour some lavender essential oil on there, and it works the best that I have found. Aloe vera, grated potato. I was working one day. A guy comes in, and he is burnt plumb up. He was a maintenance guy. He went to work on a furnace in the main building, and he turned the propane off at the propane tank, went into the furnace room, and turned the light on to work on the furnace, and the light didn't work, so that wasn't a problem. He gets over there, pulls out his big lighter, and goes click, and it goes boom. Why it didn't go boom bigger, I don't know. I don't understand that, because it had a leaking propane. The valve on the propane tank was leaking, and it was still putting out, so I don't know why he only had a small boom. Fortunately, he did. But he did. He burnt from here up. Hair's gone, eyebrows gone, eyelashes are gone, and his face had two types of burns on it. One was a bad burn. Two looked like a 1957 Chevy with flame marks on it. And he was in major pain. So we put him up on the exam table. I poured a whole quart, just kept pouring. His face soaked up a quart of the brand. Lily of the Desert is the brand I was using. Lily of the Desert, aloe vera gel. And I just kept putting it on, and it just soaked it right up like a sponge. And so I told the dietary department to grate up a bunch of potatoes. And my grandma taught me to do that as a tater poultice. I put potatoes on it. I poured aloe on it. Who has ever used vinegar for sunburn? Works very well. Let's say you have shoulders are burnt. You get a bowl of vinegar. You're probably going to need 2 bowls depending on how burnt you are. So you put vinegar in one bowl, vinegar in another bowl, put your washcloth in there, squeeze it out, apply it carefully. That washcloth is going to get hot. You're going to feel the hot washcloth hot. Pick it up and keep putting it back and forth wherever the burns are, your back, whatever, until the vinegar is hot. Take that vinegar bowl, put it in the freezer, and then now you're going to the next bowl. And you keep doing this, and you feel the washcloth get hot, you keep going back and forth. And then when you don't have hot anymore, and then you put aloe vera on it, then you will get hot again in a little while. You repeat the process. Well, on him, what I did is I put the wet potato. When you grate potatoes, it's wet and it's cool. But as I would touch it, it got hot. Take it off, and we'd reapply. Kept going back and forth. At first, it was every couple minutes, 2-3 minutes. We kept reapplying, and it got further and further apart. On the only place that there was any, every time we put a new sliver of aloe vera on his eyes. And then his nose, we put a little hole for him to be able to breathe through. Everything else from here down to here was potato. We treated him for 5 hours. His wife came in, we taught her what to do. She took him home, and she continued the process. He had no scarring. None. No scarring. That's amazing. And he was Filipino. He had a darker skin, therefore he's more prone to the scarring. Epsom salt you can use, burdock, comfrey, things that you can use for burns. Colloidal silver. Who's used Silvadene? Silvadene, yes, that's a prescription. I was working a house fire many years ago, and back before we had hoods. And I leaned over something, and when I leaned over, my bill was up. Some hot tar came off the roof, hit my neck, went down my back, and burnt my neck and my back. I went into work, and the staff put Silvadene on it. It took several years, a number of years. It finally, it was because it scarred it, and it finally went away. But Silvadene was a great product. We use colloidal silver, works the same way. For burns, works real well. You can get it in a gel, or you can get it just the liquid. I like the liquid pretty well. Calendula, chickweed, bee propolis, golden seal, marshmallow root. There's a number of things, but there's a few things that you can do for burns. Cover the burn with sterile dressing. What is the biggest issue about burns? Infection. That's right. If you have a blister, do you want to burst it or leave it? For two reasons, infection and pain. It's going to hurt worse if you break the blister. Don't break the blister. It can happen, but don't break it just with intent or with carelessness. For pain, I use wild lettuce, California poppy, Jamaican dogwood. Those work very good for the pain. Watch for signs of infection. Do not use ice. Do not use ointments. Do not break blisters. Now, my grandma taught me to use a tater poultice, but also sometimes she would put Crisco shortening. Good or bad? Wrong. That's right. Wrong stuff to put on there. It holds the heat in. Yeah, you don't want to use those kind of things. She had the taters, but not the Crisco. We'll continue on. Oral care, pine sap. Here's those mouth sores that y'all ask about. Pine sap, you can use that on mouth sores. Aloe vera, golden seal, myrrh gum powder, bee propolis, activated charcoal, salt. Who's ever used salt on a mouth sore? It works real well. But here's usually the biggest issue on mouth sores, unless you got braces. It's usually a digestive issue. Also, if you have, let's say, a fever blister. But other than those, it's usually something going on in the gut. So you want to get to that root cause. Something's going on in the stomach. Something's going on in the intestines, and you got to resolve that issue. I've seen people with all kinds of sores with ulcerative colitis. I've seen the tongue, and it looked like big caverns in the tongue. And that's usually a gastrointestinal issue that you've got to address also. Gum disease, we talked about that a few minutes ago. The golden seal, the myrrh, the pine sap, which worked well. Bee propolis is also good. Black walnut, barberry, calendula, and comfrey. All of those are good for gum disease. There we go. Toothaches. Clove oil. I'm sure y'all are well aware of clove oil. That's probably the best thing I know for a toothache. It's very powerful. Did you know that clove is also anti-cancer? Clove will kill cancer. I don't have it on here. My dentist, who's a biological dentist, he likes oil pulling. Y'all familiar with oil pulling? Where you swish the oil, say coconut oil in your mouth for 20 minutes, spit it out. Don't spit it in the sink. It can clog your sink. Spit it in a trash can or go spit it off the back porch. Charcoal poultice or a tablet, you can use that. Golden seal, myrrh gum powder, horsetail, that can help. It really does. Pine sap, calendula, chamomile, ginger, caraway. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, went to my dentist, and he was checking something, and I was having some amalgams removed. He took an x-ray, and he said, Walt, what's the eye tooth called? What do y'all call that besides a number? Your canine? Okay. He said, that needs pulled. I said, why? He said, it's infected at the roots. I said, I'm doing fine. He says, Walt, you travel a lot. He says, you're going to get up in an airplane. Going up and down is going to cause a problem. He says, you're going to be out somewhere, and you're going to have a major episode, and you can't finish speaking. He said, I need to pull that thing. He says, either we need to give you a root canal. You don't want a root canal, guys. Or pull it, put a implant. And I said, well, let me just hang on to it for a little while. And I used Alimed. and I still have the tooth. And a lady went to see him recently that I go to church with, and she had the same situation. She says, well, I'd rather use Alimed. He goes, you know Walt Cross, don't you? And he used to, every time I go into the office for anything, he says, please let me write you a prescription. You're going to need it. And that, you know, trying to get in, it might be the weekend, whatever. He just leaves me alone now. He doesn't even say anything. He's just watching. And so what I do is I'll swish it really good with that. I'll take a teaspoon of Alimed, put a little bit of water, and I just swish really hard, just swish really good, getting it up in the gums, and I'll do that twice a day. And that keeps that. If I quit doing that, I now can feel something sometimes, you know, when you feel kind of in here. But I start using Alimed and it goes away. And I met a dentist one time, actually two friends that were dentists, and they said, Walt, during the time of trouble, you may not have Alimed. Well, we'll see. Strep throat, my favorite is Golden Seal. You make an infusion, 1 teaspoon of water, 1 cup of water, 1 teaspoon of Golden Seal. Gargle every waking 2 hours and swallow. And you're topically getting the Golden Seal on those pustules. You're swallowing it. It's getting in the system. Strep throat is usually gone within 24 to 48 hours. It's very fast. You can use colloidal silver also, Allison. Sore throat. I don't have my favorite on there. I need to put it on there. Do you remember what my favorite is? We talked about it this morning. Slippery elm. Slippery elm is the best thing I have found for a sore throat. Honey and lemon. You know, we didn't get to that today. I meant to get to that today. Aloe vera. If you've had a person that's had, say, an endoscopy, a person that's been intubated for, you know, whatever reason, and they have some, you know, some soreness from it, aloe vera works really well. Golden Seal is also good for a sore throat. If you're starting to get a sore throat, but it's not strep, but it's sore throat, a lot of times I'll make me a Golden Seal. Again, a teaspoon to a cup of water, and I'll just, every 2 hours, I'm gargling with that and swallowing, and boom, it's very good to take care of that sore throat. Propolis, salt water, colloidal silver is another great one for sore throats. You can also do hydrotherapy, and you know, put you take a handkerchief and fold it where it's about like that, and then you daub it down in ice water, wring it out, but not plumb. Put it around, and then put a little pin in there, and then you can put a piece of saran wrap around there, just a little bit, and then put a wool sock around your neck. And what happens is that cold does what? Brings blood so that it warms up. Well, that blood helps to heal the sore throat. Ear infections. Golden Seal, we talked about that this morning, where I take the teaspoon, put 75% full of olive oil. I'll put a little bit of Golden Seal in there, about equivalent to a half a capsule. Stir it up real good. Rub it in. Put a hot pack on there, and every 2 waking hours, I'll do that. If it's a child, you can, or a person that you can put it in. I had a guy come in one time, and literally his ear was that open. There was no opening. I couldn't even get a dropper to go in there. I mean, that's how swollen his ear was with an infection. So it was when I was still at the clinic where I used to be before I came back to Tennessee. And so I just stayed with him all night long, and stayed in his bedroom, or went to his bedroom every little bit, and I took that Golden Seal and olive oil, and I just put it here and squeeze it, and I'd massage it. Keep trying to do it. And it took about a day before it finally opened up. And it finally opened up enough, I could get enough going down in that little bitty tight space and keeping heat on there back and forth, and we got rid of the ear infection. And it's amazing. Garlic oil, Allison, heat a light bulb. The problem is they don't make incandescent light bulbs anymore. Those worked really well. You can use, the 100-watt light bulb. Candling can also be beneficial sometimes for ear infections. Eye care. If there's a scratch, my favorite is vitamin E oil. Optometrists are taught in optometry school to take or so they tell me, you take a pencil, roll the lid back, and you drop in 1 to 2, as they're laying back like this, 1 to 2 flax seeds. Pull it back down to deal with a scratch. Well, first of all, I find that the vitamin E oil works better. If you're going to do flaxseed, make some type of an oil or something, because it's still irritant. But the vitamin E oil is amazing. That's the best thing I found. And so you can just take a vitamin E capsule, poke it with a needle, and just put enough for 1 drop in the eye. And every little bit, just squeeze some more out, and that works extremely well for scratches in the eye. Infections, the causes can be viruses. It can be viral, bacterial, fungal. It can be an allergy, other irritants. We'll continue on here. Treatment, you can use a charcoal poultice, a flaxseed poultice, golden seal wash. I like that one the best. Colloidal silver, that's my second favorite. Boric acid, chamomile, honey. Honey's a great one. I've used honey for eye infections many times. Just put honey in there, and it'll take care of it. Jasmine flowers, Allison. Pink eye, saline solution. Who grew up with cows? How'd you deal with pink eye?
I know you throw salt in their eyes, but we didn't do that. I don't know what my dad did.
That's what my dad do. He'd take salt and...
My dad did sugar.
Oh, sugar. I didn't know about that. Yeah. Dad would throw salt in the eye and catch him not looking. And I asked a vet one time, I said, is that still done today? Oh, yeah, but it's probably not the best thing for the eyes. And you don't do that to people. But a saline solution can work. Charcoal poultice, raw milk, human milk, cow milk, goat milk. That will help with pink eye. Golden seal wash. I like that probably the best. Colloidal silver is another great one. I like that one. White pink periwinkle. Lemon in the morning, honey at night. That can also help. Eye infections, prevention. Wash your hands. Nurses, what do you do between eyes when you're doing drops? Wash your hands. That's one of the fastest way a JCO and surveyor will write you up, is doing eye drops and not washing before and not washing between eyes when you're doing your drops. I mean, they're watching for that one because you just forget. It's easy to forget. And you're nervous. You got the surveyor there watching you. Hands are so important. Don't share bedding with someone that has eye infections, towels, pillows, cosmetic, eyeliner, mascara, eyeshadow. Dispose of any contacts or eye makeup that may have been exposed to the infection. Do not wear contacts or eye makeup until the infection has cleared from the eye completely. Avoid swimming in chlorine when you may have an eye infection. Pain. Water. Who's read Batman Jotty? Your body's many cries for water. Yeah, water is huge. Batman Jotty says he's probably one of the best folks to read on water. Kellogg wrote on water, but Batman Jotty is really good. And he said that dehydration magnifies pain. Dehydration magnifies pain. Wild lettuce, California poppy, Jamaican dogwood, we've talked about those. Turmeric, the curcumin that we talked about earlier. Exercise actually helps, if you can, increases vascular flow. Who's ever done an ice massage? So those are easy. So you take a cup and you fill it with water, and then you'll put it in the freezer and take it out, and then you peel back it can be a paper cup. Styrofoam kind of rips a little hard. Plastic won't work. Paper cup works the best. and you rip back, leave about an inch here, a half inch. First thing is put some water on that ice, because it's going to be sticky if you don't, coming out of the freezer. And then you just rub the area like this. Rub that shoulder, rub that area. And it's going to start to burn or sting, and then it's going to go numb. When it goes numb, then you can stop. And that's used in physical therapy. It's used in hydrotherapy to help to address pain. And other hydrotherapies: white willow, DMSO, cayenne, and pine sap. Angina. We have 3 types of muscles in our body. The heart is a different type of muscle of its own, the only muscle of that type of muscle, and it screams real loud when it doesn't have adequate blood flow. It's not getting adequate oxygen. It's not getting adequate nutrition. It screams, and that screaming is called angina. And the reason God did that for the heart muscle specifically is because the other muscles, you'll be okay, but the heart muscle, if you overwork it, you can die. It can cause a heart attack. And so, boom, you're climbing stairs, you're doing something, or you're really upset or something, and boom, you're starting to have some angina. Some things you can do: cayenne pepper, sublingual. I've had many folks tell me that cayenne pepper liquid, sublingual, works better than nitroglycerin. You can use the powder too. Magnesium oil. Magnesium oil is significantly good for the heart. I have a physician friend that if his patients have angina, he has them rub magnesium oil on their chest, and it transdermally will go in. It also works very well with other issues of congestive heart failure, or helping with the cardiac function in a patient who is having heart failure. Also, arnica can be used for angina. Do y'all know this guy? Does he live here? He's back where I live. That's called cause and effect. Food poisoning, best thing, activated charcoal. Stomach aches, activated charcoal, peppermint tea is good. Ginger root, aloe vera, lobelia, yellow root. Now, yellow root, we talked about that the other day. It's a Siamese twin with what? Golden seal. So you could use golden seal also. But yellow root is known best in the mountains of Appalachia for stomach aches, and they chew on it, and it will stop that stomach ache. You can use it for anything, like you're going to use the the golden seal. Lobelia. Lobelia at low dose is an antispasmodic. At high dose, it's a spasmodic. It actually can be serious if you take too much. You can die from taking too much. But a low dose, it's a great tool to use. I really like. Anybody ever use lobelia? It's a great tool. It's great for the lungs. It settles the stomach down. If you're doing a gallbladder or liver cleanse, it's going to dilate the bile duct so you don't have a gallstone that gets stuck in the bile duct. It's a great tool. If you have spasms, muscles that are spasm, you can make a tea of lobelia and put it over the area like a fomentation with lobelia tea in that, and it transdermally goes through and it can calm that spasm. It's a great tool. You just use it on that low dose, which is antispasmodic instead of spasmodic. If you give too much, it's going to work like syrup of ipecac. IBS, stop all dairy, stop all caffeine, all meat, all wheat, gluten, manage stress. Exercise, eat slowly. That's important. Eating fast is a problem with IBS. It's better to skip a meal than to eat fast. It's true. Trace minerals. The issue there is you're having some nutrition issues sometimes, and go back to nutrition class. You got fats, proteins, carbohydrates, complex is what you want, and then you have those, and then you have vitamins, which are the catalysts that kick on fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. So in order for fats, proteins, and carbohydrates to work, like you ate adequate amount, but to make them work right, you've got to have adequate vitamins to be the catalyst to kick these guys on. But then in order to get the vitamins to work right, you've got to have adequate minerals. And if you have adequate minerals at 8 cylinders, then it kicks the vitamins onto 8 cylinders, then it kicks the fats, proteins, and carbohydrates onto 8 cylinders. The problem is we're not getting the minerals today. We talked about the problem of processed foods don't have adequate nutrition in it. We talked about the problem of hybrid seeds don't have the nutrition in it that the heirloom seeds do. We talked about my friend who's the hospitalist down in Chattanooga, who called me just recently and said that 90 to 95% of the patients that are admitted to his hospital, because he has a standing order that all admissions has to have a magnesium and a potassium. 90-95% of the admissions are deficient in magnesium, also deficient in potassium. We're seeing more and more iron deficiency today. I have a friend, he's an ER doc, and he said iron deficiency is increasing. I said, why do you think? He said, processed foods. They're not getting their greens. They're not getting the nutrients. And so sometimes, because of our food that we have that doesn't pull up the nutrients out of the soil, we have to supplement. Where is the best place to get your food? Your backyard. Your own backyard. You know what the soil is? You've amended it. You know what the seeds are? You used heirloom. You know what you put on it. You know, you use different teas. You may have used, well, y'all don't have kudzu tea here, but you've put tea, green teas on it and things that will strengthen the nutrition of those plants. And so it's biologically grown. That's a biological garden. And that's going to be the most nutrition. And that's going to give you your minerals. But without that, if you don't have that, you might want to use some trace minerals. And we see significant improvements when we use those, especially when we see issues of poor absorption. Colon formula, we gave that out this morning. Psyllium seed, slippery elm, marshmallow root, peppermint, spearmint. 2 tablespoons, 30 minutes before each meal. Carob powder, we gave that this morning. Again, thoroughly chew the food. That's so important. UC, ulcerative colitis, follow the IBS protocol. If bleeding, use cayenne pepper, 2 caps PRN. White oak bark, if bleeding, can help. And then the potato soup we talked about, potatoes, carrots, celery, and onions. And if you have a person that has really lost weight and they're having challenges and they're afraid to do the potato soup, the folks that I've met from the Caribbean taught me that you can cook avocados. I didn't know you could cook avocados, but you can put an avocado in each one of those quarts of potato soup, and that's going to give them some fat to help them maintain that weight. Fruits and vegetables only cooked, no raw, after the 21 days. Fruits and vegetables only cooked, no raw, after 21 days until it's resolved. Fruit, so you're doing like applesauce, pear sauce, peach sauce, or like on Sunday mornings when you're making some waffles, and you cook up some strawberries or cook up some cherries and you heat them up and then you put it on top of your waffles. That's what we're talking about. The only thing you can have raw is a banana. I've never found a problem with banana in the 20-some years, 26 years I've dealt with that and worked with people. And then only on the vegetables, only cooked or steamed. You can't eat salads. Because the way the doctor explained it to me, my colon was so bad that they told me I had no intact tissue in my colon. And the doctor said I was going to die. I went from down to 140 pounds. It was just a lot of stuff going on. And so I went to a different doctor. And he had me do natural. And he says, when your colon is like that, whether it's Crohn's or colitis, he says it's like road rash. And if you take sandpaper on it, that's going to hurt. Well, raw food, he said, is too abrasive for that tissue. And so you've got to cook it. Even your juices, you want them cooked. What do I mean cooked? So when you buy your juices in the grocery store in the middle aisle, they've been canned. They've been cooked. Who's ever put up tomato juice? You cooked it to be able to put it up. If you go to the refrigerator section, that food is raw. So that juice is raw. So you don't want that juice. If you make your own juice, you can do that, but then cook it up like you were going to can it, and then you can drink it. That takes that rawness away, that roughness away, where it doesn't cause a problem with the ulcerative colitis, the Crohn's, or the gastritis.
How long?
Until you're healed. It took 6 months for me.
What about like fruit smoothies? That's uncooked fruit.
Everything has to be cooked. Yeah, only banana. Yeah. It's worth it, y'all. It's worth it. I'm here. It's worth it. H. pylori, we use Allison. And then we use a probiotic. You can also, with H. pylori, we've seen success also with colloidal silver. But the best thing I found is hit it hard, and we use the Allison. Constipation. There's several keys to constipation, Kellogg taught us. Number one is adequate water. What happens is when you're dehydrated, the hypothalamus says, "Where's some water?" "Oh, there's some in the colon." And soaks that feces drier than it should soak it dry. I mean, obviously the colon does soak up fluids. But what happens is when you're dehydrated, you then take more fluids out of the feces for the body. And so now it's harder. It's kind of like, in the summertime when it hadn't rained and the ground gets hard. That's what's going on in your colon. The next thing Kellogg said is you need plenty of fiber. They used to tell us when I went to school, they told us that you need 25 grams of fiber. We're now reading as much as 50, 60 grams of fiber is what we need. Where do you get fiber? Is there fiber in meat? Is there fiber in dairy? Is there fiber in processed foods? Where do you get your fiber? Fruits, nuts, grains, and vegetables. Whole foods, whole food, whole plant-based diet is where you get your fiber. And fiber is so important for that stool to work right. The next thing Kellogg said is you need exercise. Probably the best, we're told walking is the best exercise. I found overall, we're told, for this situation, a mini trampoline works extremely well. That bouncing up and down. But be careful, the mini trampoline. I was at a convention down in California, and Dr. Cherney talked me into getting 3 brand new trampolines. The one I had at our gym was an old Montgomery Ward's. And the key is your springs have, the one on the Montgomery Ward one was rectangular. And what happens is when you bounce on it, you stop more abruptly, and you stop more abruptly. You need to, it tapers like a football. Remember those old rocking horses we had when we were kids, and the springs were, tapered a little bit? That's what you want your springs to look like. And so I bought 3 of them, put them in the gym. Next day, I put everybody on it that needed it. The next day, everybody had flu-like symptoms. So I called Cherney. I said, "Cherney, why is everybody sick?" I put them on that mini trampoline, and everybody's sick. Who knew Cherney? Harold Cherney. Cherney started laughing. Cherney was a jolly fella. I said, "Cherney, why are you laughing?" He said, what'd you do?" I said, 15 minutes, BID, twice a day. He just started laughing again. "Why are you laughing?" He said, "I did the same thing." He said, "Those patients that you get they're clogged up. Their lymphatic system hasn't been moving. They haven't been exercising. They're toxic. You turn their sewer pumps on wide open, and the liver can't handle it, and they got the Herxheimer syndrome or a healing crisis." He says, here's what you do, and he'll take care of it from now on. I said, okay. He said, week 1, 5 minutes, 3 times a day. Week 2, 10 minutes, 3 times a day. Week 3, you can go to 15 minutes twice a day, and on past that, whatever you want to do. He said, you just have to start slow. And I've never had a problem since then. And that was back 25 years ago. And so it works well. A mini trampoline is extremely good for increasing peristalsis. The next thing Kellogg said was, I can have a person who comes in, they drink plenty of water, they have plenty of fiber, they have exercise, and I've had folks who added this item, boom, they start having good peristalsis. And that is, remember when we went to our grandma's house? And if you went to grandma's house and it's in the middle of the afternoon and you want something to eat, and she said, boy, don't touch that, it's going to spoil your meal. Remember? Did y'all have that, Grandma? Breakfast, dinner, supper. Breakfast, dinner, supper was at the same time every day. Kellogg found when we eat at the same time every day, it kicks on, helps to stimulate peristalsis. And I find people, that in of itself can cause the bowels to start working right. Interesting, isn't it? Those old grandmas are smart. The last thing Kellogg said is that if you ignore the urge, your brain starts to ignore the urge. Let's say you're a school teacher. When we were kids, if the teacher had to go to the bathroom, she'd say, Johnny, you're the monitor. I'll be back in a few minutes. Let me know if anybody was bad. Not a problem. Can they do that today? Not at all. I mean, even the adult in there has to be certified or whatever. You can't just leave them with any adult in the room by themselves. Someone has to appropriately... Anyway, it's crazy. So if you're a school teacher and you need to go and there's nobody to let you go, you just hang on. Because you can't leave the classroom. If you're a truck driver and you've got another 100 miles to go before it's time to get fuel, you don't pull off, you wait. And what Kellogg found was, when you do that, you teach the brain that is not important. And the brain starts ignoring that urge, Kellogg said. He said we should be as the natives. You got the urge, go. Both urination and defecation. Both are injured by holding off. And you can retrain the brain. We used to do something called potty training. That's what we care planed it. Let's say you got a patient who, a geriatric patient who's having some problems with continency. And so you have the lady say, have the nurse take her into the bathroom, turn on the sink, and then when she starts to go, Ms. Jones, did you feel that? Yeah. Right before she starts to urinate. And then when Ms. Jones goes home, you tell her, well, every 2 hours, you go in the bathroom, turn on the water, and when you feel that feeling, recognize what that feels like. And it's not long. You can teach Mrs. Jones to learn how to identify that feeling, just like you taught your child when you're trying to diaper train the child. And we use that for geriatrics. The same thing Kellogg said is if you retrain that patient to identify every time they need to go, have a bowel movement, go to the bathroom, you can retrain the brain. That's important, and you can start picking up on it earlier. Those are important. Adequate water, we talked about that. Fiber, we've talked about that. Exercise, eat at the same time every day. Abdominal massage. Anybody want to guess what Kellogg used for abdominal massage? A cannonball. A cannonball. He would take a cannonball and wrap it in leather and sew it up like a softball and set it down the appendix area, roll it up, roll it across, roll it down, pick it up, roll it, just like we do abdominal massage today. But he'd use a cannonball. Stool for the feet at the toilet. Y'all know what that is? One of those little stools. There was not toilets after the fall. I don't know what happened in the Garden of Eden, I'm not sure. But definitely after the fall, things changed. They didn't have. Have you ever been to other countries? When I went to Rwanda, I had an opportunity to go visit the chief of the whole country in fire. I said, Chief, I haven't seen many house fires, car fires. What's your major call for runs? He takes me out to a fire truck and he shows me this tripod thing. And it's got a winch on it. I said, what's that for? He said, that's when people fall in the hole. And what they had there was just this hole in the ground. They go and straddle it and squat, and people fall in it. Now, my question, I didn't ask him. I should have asked him, how do you call for 911, when you're down in the hole? Or the next person comes, wait. But we don't squat. We sit up on a throne. If you put a stool in front of you, it puts the legs back up in the air, and it helps with having a bowel movement. You've probably seen those little stools you can use for that. Magnesium. That's my choice. If we've done all the other, before we go with Cascara Sagrada, Senna, Harataki, Nopalina, I try magnesium to bowel tolerance. Everybody needs magnesium anyway. Let's do a huge dose of magnesium. It's not going to hurt you. That's what you take before a colonoscopy. Prune juice, herbs, Senna, Cascara, Harataki. Hemorrhoids. How long are we going? What do you want me to do?
How much more do you have?
A mess. It's y'all's choice.
What would you say time-wise we have? What you had to show?
At least an hour and a half. Hour and a half. Yeah, that's another one of them words we have. If you're in the flats of Tennessee, you say hour. In the mountains, we say hour. Y'all want to take a break? Then start back. It's whatever y'all want to do. I'm here. I don't fly out till tomorrow morning. Take a break? Okay, let's take a break. Oh, I could go do that real quick, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why don't we do that? We can do questions after.
Great. Okay, I'll be back. Testing 1, 2. Okay. Okay. No problem. Oh, okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. I'm gonna try magnesium first and potassium. Your potassium, when we got out of school, they told us we need 3,500 milligrams. Today they tell us we need 4,750. Well, most caps, if you, yeah, that's it. That's what you do because the pills are like 99 milligrams unless you get a prescription. More banana's going to run 400 or 500 milligrams, and avocado's going to run an orange. Yeah, I would look at with your magnesium, with your potassium. You get a lot of sleep. Just post-op, we could not get 30 minutes of exercise out of the patients. Constant training. But when we had the night testing, the The smaller number is the diastolic. That's the bottom number. Okay, good.
Amen. Me too. So we are very grateful to Walt Cross for his wonderful energy and stamina to give us all of this wonderful information, right? It's a real blessing. So we will continue on with our last session, and maybe we'll have time for some questions after that. So let's go ahead and get started. Thank you, Walt Cross.
Okay, on hemorrhoids. Hemorrhoids are varicose veins of the rectum, and so you treat it like varicose veins. Hemorrhoids are usually due to straining. It could be childbirth, it could be lifting, it could be constipation, and so you have to be careful with that straining aspect. If it's constipation, you want to use what you need to use for constipation. You can use aloe vera. You can use apple cider vinegar topically for external hemorrhoids. You got internal hemorrhoids, external hemorrhoids. Cabbage poultice. Be careful. Had a guy fly over from. I meant to do a cabbage poultice today. I forgot. Who's ever done a cabbage poultice? You take a cabbage, take a leaf, and beat it. And you use the butt of a knife, or you use a hammer, or whatever to beat it, and it bleeds. And that's called bleeding, where the juice comes out. And you apply it to, let's say, pain, or an ulcer, or hemorrhoids. So this guy flies over from England. He has a really bad external hemorrhoid. They couldn't fix him over in England. And so he came to us, and we were having good progress doing hydrotherapy. So what you do, hydrotherapy-wise, is you take your potty chair. Y'all know what a potty chair is, bedside toilet. You take out the bucket, and you have the patient sit without any underclothing on. They sit down. As they sit, the hemorrhoid will kind of set down. And so you get behind them, and you take a water hose, and you do the douche. Y'all know what the douche, y'all who worked at UCI know the douche. It's one of my favorite hydrotherapies. It's you use a hose. And I like a hose about this big around, a nice decent size hose. And you can regulate the temperature, hot and cold, and you can work the body different. Well, what you're after here is you're working the hemorrhoid. And so you get underneath, and you massage the hemorrhoid with that hose, warm, then you go cool. Then you go warm, then you go cool. Vasodilation, vasoconstriction, vasodilation, vasoconstriction. And that's going to help to increase circulation. And so you do that treatment for them. Well, then we used at night, we used a cabbage poultice. One evening, he comes to me and he said, I can't find the staff member to give me my cabbage poultice. I said, no problem, I'll go get it for you. So I went up to dietary, and we were out of green cabbages. And we had a red one. And so I got the red cabbage and I made it bleed. And I said, here you go put that on. The next morning he informed me that he ruined his underwear, ruined his pajamas, ruined our sheets, ruined the blankets, ruined the carpet. I mean, he stained everything. So it would have been better to take time going down and go get a cabbage poultice that was green, or a cabbage that was green. Don't use red cabbage. That doesn't work too good. But a cabbage poultice works really well for a hemorrhoid. Coconut oil, witch hazel, the hydrotherapy, the douche that we just talked about, root and squat, don't sit at the toilet, exercise and lose weight, that can be an issue. Probiotics are beneficial. Drinking plenty of water, soak the area with warm water for 10 to 15 minutes, 3 times a day, a sitz bath, ice pack or cold compress. There's a number of things that we use. And again, it depends on if it's an internal or external hemorrhoid. But make sure that you don't have constipation. Make sure that you're not straining or you're just re-injuring it. And because it's they call it a varicose vein of the rectum, you can use butcher's broom topically, and hopefully I'll think of the other one. There's 2 different herbs I use for that. Butcher's broom and I'll think of the other one. But you can take that internally and you can use it topically. Prostate care. Men who drive tractor trailers are definitely prone to that. Duke University. This is old stuff, and it was around 1990, 91. Duke University came out and said if a male has prostate issues, an enlarged prostate, stop dairy, because dairy causes inflammation of the prostate and it just exacerbates it. So you want to stop dairy, definitely if you have prostate problems. Saw palmetto, we've seen benefits with saw palmetto. We've seen benefits with pumpkin seed. But what we really see, I find more benefit in, is Podiarco and black seed oil. And I don't have black seed oil up there, I need to. But Podiarco and black seed oil, Pygem, flaxseed, zinc. Zinc's important. Again, men lose zinc more than women do. Sitz bath, that's a good one. Then iodine is good for the prostate. And we talked last night about the digital, didn't we? Again, if you having an issue, just as long as there's no cancer and no bleeding, you can do that digital massage. Female hormones. Proper nutrition. You've got to have proper nutrition. Wild yam cream, the nettle leaf, the flaxseed. Those are the top 3 that I use. 4 with nutrition, and then also manage stress. Oat straw. We looked at oat straw this morning, and oat straw works very well for helping with nutrition for female hormones. Vitex, especially and a lot of wild yam creams have Vitex in it, but added Vitex can also be a benefit. There's the stress issue. Rest, adequate water is important, and then address the adrenals. And we talked about those earlier today. Allergies. Don't you wish they had round bales when we were kids? That's what we grew up doing. Nettle leaf works very good for allergies, especially in the southeast. Nettle tea works very, very well for allergies. Raw honey, local honey, bee pollen, bromelain, zinc, bayberry, eyebright, mullein leaf, and NAC. There's a product by Buried Treasure again. It has multiple herbal items in it, and it's called Aller Ease. Aller Ease. It's a very, very good product by Buried Treasure. It's a liquid. Inflammation. Lemon water each morning. Warm lemon water. Drinking adequate water. Gluten and wheat seem to be an issue for a lot of folks. Turmeric, curcumin. We talked about MSM earlier, how to use MSM. Bromelain is an excellent tool for inflammation. He's a physician out in West Tennessee. He uses up to as much as 5,000 milligrams of bromelain when a person's having major inflammation, and he finds very good success. Coconut oil, tart cherry juice. Tart cherry juice is very good for inflammation. Ginger is good. Cloves, rosemary, Jamaican allspice, oregano, marjoram, sage, thyme, and also a charcoal poultice topically on the inflammation. On the turmeric, I'm doing probably the best thing I found now that I get most compliance from and people taking. I used to sell a lot of MSM. MSM is used a lot in horses. It's used in dogs. Veterinarians say it doesn't work as well in cats, but it works great in dogs. for inflammation. So I used to use a lot of MSM, but people just would rather take a pill. And when I found the Curamed by Terry Naturally, it's guaranteed. If it doesn't work, get your money back. But that's anti-inflammatory. And if I can get to that inflammation, as I mentioned earlier, it takes up to 500 capsules of plain turmeric to equal 1 Curamed. And you can do, say, 3 times a day, and it works quite well. And we get a lot of good success. If it's pain from inflammation, we use a Curamin. It's also anti-inflammatory, but it's very good for pain. Shingles. The best thing I found for shingles is olive leaf extract. Dr. Thrash taught me that. 800 milligrams 3 times a day. 800 milligrams 3 times a day. What normally exacerbates shingles? Stress. That's right, stress. And then I lean back on the B-complex. So I encourage people with shingles to do B-complex. Now, Dr. Thrash taught me to use a charcoal poultice, but what I found through people I worked with, they played with something called a castor oil pack, and they found it worked better than a charcoal poultice. I found that to be true. So we now use a castor oil pack. The castor oil pack will dry up the shingles, and it pushes them back in, helps also with the pain. There's another item that you can use for shingles. I don't know why I keep coming up with Terry Naturally, but it's just good stuff. They have a product called Healthy Feet and Nerves that we talked about using it for neuropathy, but it also works for shingles pain quite well because it helps with that nerve pain. Allison, vitamin C, hydrotherapy, but what I mentioned just a moment ago is what we're finding the most successful. Type 2 diabetes, we talked about this yesterday, and so we won't go into this. There is something, though, with type 1 diabetes, and it's another Terry Naturally product. They make a product for men's, I'll tell you the story. Lady comes in to buy her boyfriend something for ED. And it's a ginseng product for male enhancement. It didn't work. But you get your money back if it doesn't work. But he didn't want his money back because it reduced his insulin for his type 1 diabetes in half. And he comes in and buys it for his type 1 diabetes. And he keeps coming back because it works so well. So for type 1 diabetes, you want to do very similar to what you do with type 2. We also talked about niacinamide. Definitely you want to do away with dairy. But type 1 is just a much more difficult issue. In the raw, we talked about raw. Heart function. The Duke diet, again, we talked about this yesterday. The whole food plant-based diet, water, exercise, rest. Abstaining from tobacco. Tobacco is definitely harmful for heart function. Alcohol and illicit drugs. Stress is tough. Hawthorn berry, CoQ10, magnesium, we talked about that. Calcium-rich foods. Potassium, cayenne pepper, garlic, and vitamins A, B, C, and E are all good for heart function. Usually with a person who's in congestive heart failure, we're doing quite a bit of vitamin C. We're actually pushing 2 of them. One is the magnesium to bowel tolerance and the vitamin C to bowel tolerance. And sometimes it's hard to tell which one is giving them a loose stool because we're pushing both of them really strong. Hypertension. You want to find the cause. You want to address stress, adequate water, rule out kidney challenges, maintain ideal body weight, manage sodium intake, no refined salt. So you're better with a Himalayan, you're better with a Celtic. Some people say, well, Walt, which should I use, Celtic or Himalayan in general? And I was listening to a nutritionist on the subject, and she made sense. She said Celtic has some minerals that Himalayan doesn't have. And Himalayan has some nutrients that Celtic doesn't have. So what she does is she just mixes them up. You know, she'll cook this dish with Himalayan and this one with Celtic. I personally like the taste of Celtic, but I know I need the Himalayan also. You want to rule out atherosclerosis, clogged arteries. You want to rule out arteriosclerosis, hardening of the arteries. And you want to manage if there's a heart function issue. Celery is good. It's an unnatural salt. Potassium, you got blackstrap molasses, and there's other sources of potassium. Your bananas, your avocados, your banana is going to have 400 or 500 milligrams. Your avocado could have as much as 800 milligrams. Your orange could have 300 milligrams. Coconut water. Who likes coconut water? That's a great source of potassium. Depending on the brand, it could be 400 to 600 milligrams per cup. So it's a really good source of potassium. Magnesium, very important for hypertension. Exercise, whole food plant-based diet, trusting God. Again, that goes with everything, but it definitely helps the first item, managing stress. The problem is people just want a pill. They just want a healthy pill, or they just want a tea, but they don't want to change lifestyle. It's like, God, just give me a pill for lying, but I still want to keep lying. Or give me a pill for stealing, but I still want to steal. You know what I'm saying? You want to get to that root cause. And one of the things we often forget, and we talked about this yesterday, and people will say, well, it's my body. I can do whatever I want to with it. I don't argue with people on those things. But 1 Corinthians is very clear, chapter 6, that Christ bought our body. He bought us through the cross. And then it says that the Holy Ghost dwells within. You go to chapter 3, and it says the Holy Ghost dwells within. And if we defile the body, God will destroy it. And He allows, okay, if that's what you want to do, if you want to do that, then you're going to have disease. And He allows it to be destroyed. But it's not ours to destroy. We're just caretakers. We're caretakers of a body that belongs to Christ. And so when we make these decisions, we don't want just a healthy pill and still have that sandpaper going. We need to go back and take that cause away, because it's not our body, it's Christ's body. Hypercholesterolemia, high cholesterol. So we talked about not eating anything with a mama, whole food plant-based diet, not eating wheat because wheat can raise the LDL. We talked about the Duke diet is very good, a juice flush diet. Red yeast rice we talked about, but I like better the bergamot, which is the cholesterol pro, or the listeril, which is the garlic. I like that better than the red yeast rice. If you want to increase the HDL, because HDL will help to lower the LDL, garlic, vitamin D, there's a direct relationship between vitamin D and HDL. So if you have a low vitamin D, that can pull your HDL down. You want to raise your HDL, raise your vitamin D. That's a good way to work on that. Restrict cashews, because we found, as we said yesterday, that cashews can lower the HDL. Exercise is an excellent way to raise HDL. Go to Neil Nedley's book, Proof Positive, and you'll see a graph there on how much exercise it takes to raise the HDL so much. Beans can help, a non-gluten diet, flaxseed, walnuts, almonds, chia seed, and avocados. Those items do help to raise HDL. Atherosclerosis. reduce vascular inflammation, lower omega-6s, increase omega-3s. People eat too many omega-6s. The ratio's off. You need to increase your 3s, lower your 6s. Swap saturated and trans fats for olive oil. But actually, if you want to really be aggressive, just stop all oils at first during this process. If you want to add some back in moderation after you got things under control, pray about that. But right now, the best thing to do is stop all oils. Don't eat refined foods, eat fruits and vegetables, eat nuts, no alcohol, manage stress, herbs and spices such as turmeric, ginger, garlic, basil, and cayenne pepper. All those help with atherosclerosis and arteriosclerosis. The Duke diet again, and then as the restoring program, and then the maintenance program is the Cornell diet, the whole food plant-based diet with variety. For atherosclerosis, we talked about if you want to clean the plaque out, we talked about using lecithin granules. If it's a bad situation, 1 tablespoon 3 times a day, and then flax oil, 1 tablespoon twice a day. There's your granules: the psyllium, hawthorn, horsetail, ashwagandha, and ghoul. Triglycerides, and some of these just a repeat from some of the things we talked about yesterday, is eliminating sugars, stress, oils, meat. It is true that red yeast rice will lower triglycerides, but I would rather now use the Cholesterol Pro, which is the bergamot, because with the red yeast rice, it's still a statin. Weight loss. That's a challenge. You got to look at the physiology. We know that when you eat breakfast, it increases metabolism, you burn calories. We know that when you eat the noon meal, it increases metabolism, we burn calories. Dr. Koop found when we eat after 3 o'clock, metabolism turns off, and we eat at night, then what happens is metabolism doesn't raise, and then we don't lose the weight. One of the best ways to lose weight is to eat breakfast, dinner, and that's it. Now, Koop, if you need to lose a lot of weight, you only ate breakfast. He wouldn't even feed you dinner, the noon meal. The other is exercise. Exercise is critical. Dr. Agatha said there's 3 ways to lose weight. And it's just like finances. Anybody work in finance? So there's 3 ways if you need to increase your revenue at home or have more money. Increase revenue, pick up another job, get a different job that pays more, or reduce expenses, or both. The same thing in weight loss, Dr. Thrash said. You need to decrease calorie intake, increase calorie burn, or both. She said that losing weight is for many people like going downstairs. It's just not a constant bell curve. Some people kind of go and then they stay a while and then they drop, and then they stay a while and they drop. She said that you just have to be persistent. But also she said, if you're over here, can I walk over here okay? I hope I don't lose. Let's say this is a stairway going up a stair, and this is the stair, it comes down here. She said, don't be right here, because that means you jump the next stair up the next pound. She said, be over here where you're about to fall. If you like this weight right here, be here where you could fall off a pound, then here where you jump up a pound. And so try to figure out where it's best right here instead of over here as you look at that issue of stair-stepping. Kemner found that exercising 4 times a day to be very beneficial, and I find the exact same thing. Exercise, that's just what we're made to do. The body physiologically is made to move. And a lot of our jobs today are sedentary. We're sitting at a desk. We're sitting at a computer. We're just not moving. And the body to work properly has to move. And so exercise helps. I was at Duke University when I went there to learn how to do the Duke program. And I was standing there with one of the physicians. I mean, literally the line was out that door out there. How many patients? They would have over 100 patients at a time taking this program. $13,000 for the first visit, over 100 people. Private pay, no insurance. They were making the bucks, a lot of money. And so first thing in the morning, you went at 7 o'clock. You went and you weighed yourself. The nurse would take your information. If she needed to take a glucose, she'd take a glucose. She'd do a blood pressure on everybody every morning. She'd get basic vitals. You stand in line. And usually they had 2 doctors standing there, and the lines were as long as from here out the door. And then I was standing there beside the physician just watching, trying to learn what they're doing. We were in care plan. We were going through the program. And I was standing there that morning as a lady comes up to the physician, and he says, we'll say, Mrs. Jones, let's see here. You haven't lost anything in 3 days. Let's see, you're walking 5 miles a day. I want you doing 8 miles today. Next. Exercise. You couldn't cut back in calories because the Duke diet, that's not a lot. It's the brown rice and the fruit and the salad and the brown rice. And so they didn't cut back on the calorie intake, but they would keep pushing the expenditure of calorie burn. And that's so important. It's also important in weight loss to clean the liver. How many of y'all change the oil in your vehicles? How many change the oil filter when you change the oil? Can you imagine taking that, either not changing the oil filter? It's going to get clogged up. Can you imagine people eating livers, like chicken liver and cow liver? It's the toxins. It's the toxins. And so Dr. Joel Arcilla taught me that for weight loss, you've got to do a liver cleanse. You've got to clean the filter. And so we do go on our website, themustardseed.us, themustardseed.us, and go to education, go to, I think it's downloads, and then go to GBL, gallbladder liver cleanse. Now, if you do a liver cleanse, it's going to clean the gallbladder if you got one. If you do a gallbladder cleanse, you're going to do a liver cleanse. And then, so what happens is you do the liver cleanse and the gallbladder cleanse. It's kind of like back flushing a swimming pool filter. It cleans the filter out. But then the next morning you clean, because it dumps it into the colon, you need to clean the colon out also. So you do a colon cleanse the next morning. And what I use is something I've used for 21 years for folks coming in wanting a colonoscopy, and they didn't want to do the Go Lightly or whatever was being given. And the GIs don't even know that we just did that simple little cleanse, and it's not the Go Lightly or whatever. So actually in this, you're getting a liver cleanse. If you have a gallbladder, you're getting a gallbladder cleanse, and then you're getting a colon cleanse. And Dr. Arcilla said that it's good to clean the liver at least once a year, better yet, twice a year. Kind of like changing the oil filter. If you want to lose weight, he found that it really helps to clean the liver. Adequate water, whole food plant-based diets, 2 meals, breakfast and dinner. You keep hearing me say dinner. Does anybody say dinner for the noon meal? Pardon? Do you know why people call it lunch? And why people call it dinner? If you read the lady that we read yesterday morning, she called it dinner. If you read John Harvey Kellogg, he called it dinner. And if you read back in the 1800s, if you read the doctors at that time, they said it was unhealthy to eat lunch. So what's lunch? It's a between meal snack. Is what it was called. Lunch was like a midnight snack or a between meal snack. Well, how did dinner get moved down to supper and then dinner jump in there at noontime? I mean lunch get in there at noontime. Well, do you eat Thanksgiving lunch? Do you eat Thanksgiving or Christmas lunch? No. So what happened is prior to the Industrial Revolution, husband's at home, wife's at home, wife makes husband big breakfast. They're on farms. Makes the husband big dinner, and then makes a light supper. But then when the Industrial Revolution came along, husband went to the factories. And wife makes husband big breakfast. She then makes him a little meal to take to work at the factory. And then when he got home, she would make now a big meal because he had a little meal for noon. So they took the noon name, dinner, pulled it to the evening, and then they say, well, we have to have a name for the little meal. What they called at that time little meal was lunch. And they pulled lunch into the noon meal. That is why city folks say lunch and country folks say dinner. Because many country folks are still working on a farm. But that's where the change was. It's interesting reading history. Adequate bowel movements is huge in weight loss. And when we look at adequate water, we know that dehydration causes fluid retention. And how much does a pint of water weigh? A pound. Yes. A pint is a pound. A pint is a pound as the world is round. It's not exactly. It's a hair more because a gallon is like 8.34 pounds. But it's just a little over. But you can say it's a pound. So dehydration can cause fluid retention. Stress causes a challenge with weight loss. There's a lot of stress eating. When people are stressed, they eat. Exercise, go to bed by 9 o'clock. Research is very clear now that sleep deprivation increases weight. Sleep deprivation increases weight. You've got the Duke diet, the vegetable juice diet, or the raw food diet. Depression. Prior to COVID, WHO said that very shortly depression was going to take over and surpass stress in the United States. COVID hit. Yes, we see depression increasing, but we really saw stress and anxiety go nuts during the COVID issue, and still today there's still significant amounts of anxiety and stress going to doctors' offices. Depression, but we didn't see that progression that we were seeing, that trend. COVID messed that up. Number one, trusting God. Hydration. I mentioned, I think yesterday, a hospital in New England area will not take you as a patient unless you drink a gallon of water a day. Huge for depression. Exercise outdoor in the sunshine. That's going to help with fresh air. It's going to help with vitamin D. A well-rounded whole food diet. Go to bed by 9 o'clock. They did a study on females with depression. It was called the Female Study. And the ladies who went to bed by 9 o'clock had significant improvement with depression. Spend time in nature, gardening, animals. Both of those can help with depression. B complex, lithium orotate. I had a guy come in one time. He was so depressed. He was Mennonite. He couldn't work. He was suicidal. And I encouraged him to take B complex and lithium and magnesium. And he found that he had to take right at about 100 milligrams of lithium to work. He was that deficient in lithium. Did a blood test, and he was significantly low in lithium. Boom, he was right out of it, right out of depression. He would call for a while, for almost a year. He would call every once in a while and say, I need to talk to Walt. And I told the staff, immediately get me, because he goes into he gets very depressed and suicidal. And he'd say, Walt, I'm not doing good. What do I need to do? So-and-so, I will call him Billy. Billy, did you take your lithium orotate? I knew there was something. He could remember to call me, but he couldn't remember what he needed to take. He quit taking his lithium. And when he quit his lithium would drop again, and boom, he would become suicidal. But now he's doing so much better that he doesn't call me anymore. But lithium is very, very important for brain function, for depression. Flaxseed. Flaxseed has, you want to eat it within 15 minutes. Got your omega-3s, your trace minerals. We talked about the skull cap. And also in depression, you want to identify your triggers. And y'all are getting ready to have a class on depression. Is that right? Or is someone having one? Okay, someone near here is having one. And you want to identify what used to be called the flags or the triggers. You want to identify those. It could be recent loss of job. It could be you lost your house. It could be your spouse died. It could be you got a divorce. It could be another family member died. It could be grandparents raising grandchildren. That can literally be a flag for depression. I see a lot of grandparents raising children, and I'm good with that. My grandma said she raised me more than my mama, and it's true. My mom worked at the hospital. I spent most of the time with my grandma. And even when I got into school, if I had a free time and we separated and where we lived, I was at my grandma's house and granddaddy's house. It was on a farm, and that's where I enjoyed being. But I'm seeing great-grandparents raise great-grandchildren. Why? The children and the grandchildren are in prison or in jail for drug use. And the great-grandparents are having to raise the great-grandkids. And it's difficult. It can be depressing. And so you want to find those flags and see, is there anything, finances, whatever, health. There's a number of things that can cause those flags. And you want to take away the sandpaper. You want to find out, is there anything that you can do? Some things that you just can't do. You know, a loss of a spouse. Is there anything that we talked about this morning you can do for that one? Trust in God. It's where you take that T-bar and you tear that paper in half and you give it to God. Yes, you miss your spouse. But God, help me with the depression. Help me deal with it. And when Satan comes back and does this, you say, and what? In Jesus' name, Satan, get thee behind me. And you just keep saying it till he goes away. Christ says that for a widow, he will become the husband. True? He does. We see a lot of divorces out there today. A lot of depression from that. And so, one of the laws of health is trusting God. And we can take all kinds of herbs and do whatever and try to dump ourselves into that. But trusting God is so powerful, y'all. I encourage you to grab hold of that. Skullcap, oat straw, St. John's wort, SAMe, 5-HTP, kava kava, hops, chamomile, valerian, classical music. Neil talks in his Depression the Way Out program about having classical music in the morning. It kind of gets you going, kind of a classical music that takes you through the day, and a calming classical music that calms you down at night. Does music affect? It does. Anybody grew up on a dairy farm? Okay. So you know how in dairy, and you're always trying to figure out how to get more pounds. We count by pounds. It's hard living on a dairy farm, not a lot of money, and so you make everything work. You fix everything with baling twine. And so my daddy was trying to figure out how to get more milk from the cows. We got about 2.25 gallons of milk a day on average. I went to a dairy farm recently. They got over 20 gallons of milk a day. Not one cow ate a blade of grass. Different feed today. I had a dairyman come in the store not long ago, and I like talking about cows. I just like cows, and he and his wife are talking, and I you know, he's using Holsteins, and I said, well, you got any jerseys? No, he's just using straight Holsteins, and he said, I don't use no bull. Well, we did an AI, artificial insemination. He goes, no, I don't do AI either. how do you have calves? He goes, I don't have calves. You don't have calves? No. Well, how do you get milk? He says, well, I just take a heifer, pump her full of hormones, hormone her for 2 years, and beef her out at 2 years. You see a problem? Yeah. So Dad was trying to figure out how to gain milk, healthy-wise. And so he thought he would try music. And so he played music in the dairy parlor. He started out with country music, and that was Hank Williams' day. Kind of went down a little bit. And then he tried gospel music. Wasn't too bad. And then there's this new guy around, and his name was Elvis Presley. We had the worst day of milking we'd ever had. Dad didn't do that again. And then he tried what we used to call elevator music. Remember elevator music, classical music? Yeah, the best milking we'd ever had. From that time forward, Dad played elevator music in the dairy parlor. Can the music we listen to affect this? There's music out there that just plumb ramp you up. Is there certain television that can affect this? Is there certain things on Facebook that can affect this right here? It sure can. And so protect your mind. Protect who you run with. Do we protect our children with who they run with? Went home one day. Sitting there at the supper table. This is back when I worked in regular health care. Walter said something that just, it was, boom, where'd that come from? And I didn't even say nothing to him. I said, Mary Lou, was he with somebody new today? Well, yeah, there's a family just moved in from New York into the area, and we spent the day with them. Walter, if you ever have saying like that again, you're not running with that little boy. That's just not a right thing to say. I had strict parents and grandparents. Things went well for a while. And then again, Walter said something that was just, where'd that come from? And I looked, didn't talk to Walter. I said to Mary Lou, were you with that family again? Yeah, we were with them again today. I said, Walter, you ain't running with that boy no more. I told Mary Lou, I said, no more. You ain't running with them. Because it was just inappropriate comments that just didn't belong in our house. You know what I'm talking about. We protect who our children run with. Do we protect who we run with? Does that make sense? There's some people, not saying we need to be snobby or snubby or whatever, but just pick who we run with. That can affect how our brains run. It can affect spiritual too. Just as you protect your children, you want to protect yourself also. Read at least one chapter in Proverbs every day. Neil recommends that. Massage is good. I'd go for that every day. How about y'all? I like massage. Hydrotherapy. Identify the cause, then look forward in how to overcome the challenges. One-on-one time with a positive, forward-thinking support individual. Get a partner. Think positive. And remember, I added that 9th law. Be happy. A merry heart doeth good like a medicine. We have a choice in how this works. We can correct our thoughts. We literally can. We can either be positive or we can be negative. Some people enjoy being negative. Some people enjoy making you feel bad. They just do that. And so as you think things, again, not Pollyanna, but be positive. Cancer. We talked about this one yesterday. So we won't go through that one again. These are things that we use for cancer. Thyroid. We talked a little bit about thyroid. No fluoride, no chlorine, no bromide, no gluten. Those are the no's. Iodine, yes, you can use kelp, dulse, supplements. You got to eat a mess of it, of kelp and dulse. You're just not getting enough. Again, we need more iodine. For thyroid, you're looking about, if it's hyper, be careful, but if it's hypo, you can easily do 12.5 to 50. 12.5 to 50. 12.5, 25, or as much as 50. B2, B3 are good. Zinc, B2 and B3 actually help the absorption of iodine. Zinc, selenium, tyrosine. You can put a charcoal poultice around. You can do a bentonite clay. You can do a castor oil pack around as a poultice at the thyroid and rotate that. Rest and manage stress. Stress is huge. It blows the adrenals, and it's a huge impact on thyroid function. And said, if thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, will do that which is right in his sight, will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes, I will put none of these diseases upon thee, which I have brought upon the Egyptians, for I am the Lord that healeth thee. Exodus 15:26. And so we have a possibility of being healthy. It's conditional. It's if-then statement. God has given us 4 conditions right there. The Bible talks about statutes for health. It talks about commandments. It talks about those 4 things. And he says, if you follow those 4, I will not give those diseases upon you. And I think that's very important. Are there any other questions before we close? We can take this as another question and answer time. Do we have a mic?
I was just wondering about your charcoal. If you are taking
There you go. Okay.
Yeah, I was just wondering about charcoal. If you're taking it like a tablespoon in water, a glass of water, how often can you do that a week?
Okay. I used to do a tablespoon at a time for any problem. And I was talking to Dr. Agatha about it. And she said, a teaspoon will do fine. Now, we do know today that a teaspoon twice a day. I used to only do charcoal prevention-wise, or to deal with a problem, not prevention, but to deal with a problem, an acute issue. But we now know today that charcoal can be used prevention-wise to prevent cardiac sclerosis. That's huge. That's good. And so it's okay for us to take 3 caps or a teaspoon twice a day. Indefinitely. Just don't take it within 2 hours either side of a medication. If you have significant, let's say, diarrhea, I mean, you can't get it under control. You can do as much as 2 tablespoons 4 times a day. Now, that slows things down. Also, if you have a person with extremely high cholesterol, I've learned other ways to do it now. I used to do, again, 2 tablespoons 4 times a day. But I found the Cholesterol Pro, things like that will lower it very effectively, the diet. And I don't use the charcoal like I used to for cholesterol. Yes, ma'am.
I have like 5 questions, but they're short, I hope.
Okay.
The flaxseed, when you grind it, how much should you be taking?
It depends. It depends on, usually, well, on your level of stress. Okay. If you're not stressed, I recommend 2 tablespoons twice a day. If you're stressed, 3 tablespoons twice a day. Now, I used to recommend 2 tablespoons 3 times a day. And Mary Lou kind of helps me with reality sometimes. She says, Walt, most people ain't going to do that. Do it before you leave home. Do it when you get home at night. And so instead of 2-3 times a day, do 2 or 3 tablespoons twice a day.
And how does that compare to flax oil?
Okay, flax oil, it's interesting. If I'm after atherosclerosis, I use the oil because it seems to work faster. But I like the flaxseed. I like the fiber in it. And so I go with the flaxseed because I want that fiber. You've got the omega-3. You do have some 6, but it's a good source of 3. And it's got the tryptophan in it. But you got to eat it within 15 minutes of grinding it.
How about chia as compared?
Chia seeds have more omega-3, but they're not going to have the tryptophan.
How about algal oil?
What is that?
Algal oil, it's an algae oil that's supposed to have some different ones than like the flax has, and it's supposed to be like the new rage. I don't know much about it.
I'm not familiar with it.
When you're saying black seed oil, is that like a sunflower seed, or is it?
It's called BLACK, black seed oil. There's another word. Black.
Cumin?
Yeah, it comes from India. Yes. Okay, thank you.
And could you remind me which treatment it was for Lyme? I've kind of forgotten.
So for Lyme disease, there's several things. One, we find Alimed works very well for that. We see 3 outcomes with Alimed. We see an outcome where what we see least is it doesn't do anything. Nothing's 100% in healthcare normally, but it can happen. But what we see the most is benefit. Significantly benefits the person, and they find that it's worth to continue taking. And then we find a significant amount, like my son, who took it, and it's been gone now. Next month will be 13 years. Also, we like doing a parasite cleanse. Say like black walnut, wormwood, clove. Do it for 2 weeks, crescendo. Let's say you're doing a black walnut, wormwood, clove extract. You do a half an ml, BID twice a day. Increase over a 2-week period to 2 mLs twice a day. Stop for 1 week. The first 2 weeks kills everybody, and then the week that you stop, it allows the babies to hatch. And then you repeat the same thing, half ml twice a day, crescendo over a 2-week period at 2 mLs twice a day, and then it kills the babies that just hatched for parasites. Also, we find folks do best if they stay away from sugar, especially refined sugar, and even don't eat a mess of fruit either. The other thing is do a good immune system tea. Whatever you want to use, but just a good tea to boost the immune system. Those are the things that we found most beneficial. Any other questions? Yes.
I've heard other medical missionaries mention blood root. Have you ever used that?
I didn't understand.
Do you ever use blood root?
Oh, blood root. Yes, sir.
They use it to draw things?
Yes, sir. And treat things. It's used for cancer.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Mostly tumors, right?
Yes. You can take it by mouth. You can also add some other things with it and make something called black salve. And it's used for tumors. Yes, sir. I would not use it on the face.
I have
Yes.
2 quick questions.
Yes,
The
ma'am.
first one is, does activated charcoal interfere with vitamins and minerals, and does it absorb them like it does with pharmaceuticals? That's my first question.
I asked Dr. Agatha that question. She said definitely it doesn't mess with the food. It can with like Alimed. We do find, because the way Alimed is, it does affect Alimed. It can with some vitamins and minerals. So just take it 2 hours apart. But she said she never found that there was an issue with food.
Oh, okay, so like if you're taking some kind of a vitamin, you would just take that 2 hours away from
Just for caution.
from that. Yes.
She
okay.
found that some it may not, and so not sure which, just be conservative.
Okay, just as you would do with medications. And then the
Yes,
other
ma'am.
question is, like if you have allergies and excessive mucus in your throat, is there anything that can help with that?
Yes, don't do dairy. Dairy is the most mucus producing food. There are some other foods that can do it, person specific. And then plenty of water. Dehydration causes mucus to be thicker. So hydration is very important. So that sipping of the water, every little bit, like I should be doing right now. And then using slippery elm, and that can help also.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know if you're familiar with Cyrus Kambata. He is a type 1 individual who, well, ended up, he had type 1 diabetes as a 20-something-year-old, and he decided to change his engineering major to nutritional biochemistry. Wrote an excellent book called Mastering Diabetes. He has he promotes a product called AMLA, which is Indian
AMLA.
gooseberry. Are you familiar with AMLA and how that works for type 1 or for anything?
I don't. I know that I've heard of AMLA. We've had it, but I do not know how it works with type 1. I'd be interested. AMLA, refresh my memory. Is that a total vegetarian product?
It's a berry. It's Indian gooseberry.
Okay.
Is the other
So
term.
AMLA.
AMLA would be the Indian word.
And so did he find that it totally reversed type 1?
No, but it
Improved.
It improves it to such an extent that
Good.
it continues to assist the body in handling the lack of insulin.
Okay.
So
So good. Yes, I am familiar with the Indian gooseberry. Yes. But I'm not familiar with that, so I need to look at that. Because any way I can help those top ones.
So here's a question from someone in the audience. My mom has osteoporosis, has sustained multiple fractures to her back. She's quite hunched over and has a lot of back pain. What can be done to strengthen the bones and alleviate the pain?
There's a couple keys on whether you're dealing with osteopenia or you can. The first thing is you need adequate calcium in the blood. And your best source of calcium is your green leafy vegetables. If you're not doing green leafy vegetables, then you can do, say, 1,000, 1,200 milligrams of calcium. But anytime you do calcium, you got to do magnesium or deplete your magnesium, so do it in half. So 500, 600 milligrams of magnesium. That's going to load the body with the calcium. But your green leafy vegetables are the best. I encourage you to read a book called Death by Calcium. Death by Calcium. Quite interesting book on using calcium supplementation. It will change your thought to go to the green leafy vegetables.
Is magnesium a precursor or?
It takes magnesium to break the calcium down. And so you're going to use up magnesium when you're taking the calcium. And that robs the body. We're already so low in magnesium anyway, we just lose, we drop even lower when we're taking plain calcium. And a lot of the docs mess up on that. They just say take calcium and they don't recommend the magnesium along with it. Number two is you have to have adequate vitamin D to pull the calcium out of the blood into the body. And so you want that magnesium, that vitamin D somewhere up around 100. Mary Lou had osteopenia. We took her up to 175. Totally reversed osteopenia. But we pushed her up to 175. But staying within the scope, what you're comfortable with. Definitely 100 is better than, 20, 30. Number three, NASA found that when astronauts go to space, they have bone density loss because of weightlessness and the lack of weight-bearing exercise. So when astronauts come back, like we're getting ready, or we may have already gone to get them, or this week we're going to get them. We've got astronauts that were left in space, unfortunately. And so SpaceX is going to get them. And I'm sure they will put them on a mini trampoline because they've been there a long time. And what happens is the mini trampoline is a weight-bearing exercise that drives the calcium into the bones, and that is the best tool that NASA found to be able to get that calcium into the bones. And again, going back to Dr. Cherney's 5 minutes 3 times a day first week, 10 minutes 3 times a day the second week, and then if you can, go up to 15 minutes, say twice or 3 times a day. That's going to help drive that calcium into the bones and that weight-bearing exercise. And the fourth thing for ladies, more so ladies than men. And Dr. Lee in California is the one who identified that. And that is not only estrogen, but you got to have an adequate amount of progesterone for bone density. And so, make sure your estrogen levels are right, make sure your progesterone levels are right. And the best way I found to do that is the wild yam cream.
Thank you. Another question from the audience is what to do about the 3-day water fast if you have hypoglycemia?
The 3-day water fast is not for everybody. And so if you can't do it, don't do it. You just have to see what your body's able to do. Not everybody can do it. And so you just have to see what you can do. Okay? Yes, sir.
So what do you recommend for fibromyalgia? My mom has it really bad, and anything that could help with the pain would definitely be great.
The best thing I found for fibromyalgia is boost the adrenals. When the adrenals are blown, we see more problems with fibromyalgia. And the best results I have found for fibromyalgia, yes, juicing is good. I like juicing for fibromyalgia. For fibromyalgia, you may have to eliminate nightshades. You may even have to eliminate corn. Some people with fibromyalgia cannot even eat one kernel of popcorn. They'll start crying because the pain is so bad. And so you have to find out what foods might be an issue there. But from attacking it, the best way I found to attack fibromyalgia with the best success is hitting the adrenals. Nettle tea is good for the adrenals, but we talked yesterday about a product called Adrena Sense. Adrena Sense. It has herbs in it. It's just a pill that has herbs in it. About 5, I think, herbs in it, and 4 or 5. And it works quite well in helping those folks with fibromyalgia.
So I actually have a question here.
Yes.
You talked about women's hormones, but I heard you mention earlier something I've heard before, and that is that as time goes on, seemingly men's testosterone levels are just getting lower and lower, down to the lower levels of what is considered normal and natural. So what do you recommend to naturally boost those up to the upper end of, or as like at optimal levels within us? How
old are you?
Oh, 23.
So I have guys your age come in with a testosterone level, which it should be in the 750s, 800.
It's nanograms per deciliter?
Part?
Is that nanograms per deciliter?
On the lab, I don't remember how, but that's the lab work is going to say that.
Okay.
And they'll be in the 150s, 160s. Your age. So what lowers the testosterone? We know that sleep deprivation lowers testosterone. We know that visceral fat lowers testosterone. Visceral fat increases estradiol. Elevated estradiol lowers testosterone. Alcohol lowers testosterone. Lack of exercise can be an issue also. The best thing that I found for increasing testosterone, there's sarsaparilla, and its lives are interesting. I'll get guys come in, and they'll say, "Walt, I need something for my tea. It's awful low. I just don't have a lot of energy." And Doc said my tea's low, and so we'll use sarsaparilla. We'll do 2 mLs 3 times a day for the first 30 mLs, first ounce, and that'll last 5 days. If they could do more, if they could continue that and they got the money, that's good. But at least load up 2 mLs 3 times a day for the first 5 days. And then after that, 2 mLs at least once a day, more is even better. Boom, testosterone starts coming up. And I have a friend of mine who is a physician, and he called me and he says, Walt, I got patients coming in with low T, what do I need to do? I said, try the sarsaparilla. And he called me back several months later. He says, it's working, their T's coming up. But then what happens is the guys quit coming in because they have more energy and they're doing good. Well, I'm okay now. I don't need to go spend the money on that. I can spend it on something else. Several months later, guess who comes in? Their wife. What were you giving Billy Bob for his tea? He was doing stuff around the house, and he ain't doing stuff around the house no more. I need some of that stuff to get him to do some more work around the house. It was working. So sarsaparilla can help. I've seen good benefits. Have you ever heard of something called Shilajit? It's kind of something new out there. Shilajit, it looks like tar. I've never tasted tar, but I can imagine what tar tastes like. It tastes like it. And you can take it in a liquid. You can take it in a capsule. You can take it in just the tar stuff. And we're seeing that helping with testosterone. We're seeing it help with mental focus. We're seeing it help with energy. And it's got some good nutrients in it. And that is helping with testosterone. Another thing that can help with testosterone is wild yam cream for men. And the ladies' wild yam cream will have like Vitex in it. And the men's wild yam cream will have, say, sarsaparilla in it and things for men. And we find that when applied in certain areas works even better. But we're finding that's increasing testosterone also. And I see what probably works the best is when I'm using a combination of the, and I haven't played with Shilajit, it's kind of new, so I haven't added into the mix, and I've been using the other two for a number of years, and I get the best results if they'll use the sarsaparilla and the men's wild yam cream. Okay. He needs a.
I've artificially had my testosterone level reduced, and so if you increase it naturally like that, will it be dangerous for prostate cancer?
I don't remember the correlation there. If low T is going to increase your risk of prostate cancer, I'd have to double check that. I don't remember.
Thank you.
Yes. Yes, sir.
So as far as sarsaparilla, do you recommend like a tincture, powder, capsules?
An extract.
An extract?
Like a tincture.
Like a
or
tincture.
extract.
Okay, and then is there any like issues with elevating your testosterone and then dealing, because, you know, with aggression or anger or anything like that, you know what I'm saying? Because sometimes they say high testosterone levels will cause that, but...
How old are you?
Me? I don't have a problem at the moment, but I'm thinking in the future. I'm 54, going to be 54.
You know, for your age, probably in the 500 would be normal. Mm-hmm. I've got a guy that comes in to see me. He's in his mid-70s, and his testosterone is almost 800. That would be normal for your husband.
Does he have any problem with mood?
Pardon?
Does he have any problem with mood at all?
Well, you know, I mean, we see boys with high testosterone, they're ready to go, you know, and
yeah.
they're like a little bull calf. But it's good to have a good testosterone. Mm-hmm. We need to be men. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's stuff we need to be doing, and we don't need a low testosterone. We need to have strength. We need to be strong mentally and be men. And so I believe testosterone can be a part of that.
Okay.
Walt, I have a question. As we are getting close to the little time of trouble, what is your philosophy or your opinion about what we should be doing to get our ailments in check and getting ready for that time period?
That's a good question.
When we're not going to have access to a lot of things.
Did you watch What's Up Prof week before last?
I did not.
Walter Weiss said we've gone into it. He believes. I think we have to. You know, most of my patients, when I worked at the center, the average age they came in was 62-point-something years of age. And I asked, why are you coming in now at 62, 61, 63, 64? But the average age of all of our patients was 62-point-something years old. Well, I'm going to have to go on Medicare pretty soon, and you know, I just want to make sure everything's taken care of. Well, it's true. As we're getting ready to go in a time that, most importantly, Daniel 12:1. When Michael stands up, it will be a time as never before. Are you mentally strong? Is your brain strong? I do a talk called Preparing the Brain for Battle. The importance of our brain being sharp to be able to identify temptation, sharp to be able to speak for what is right and for what is wrong. And so as we have come into, as Walter said 2 weeks, a little over a week ago, he believes we've come into it. I believe that we need to be mentally clear. We need to be physically, are we going to have to go somewhere? Are we just planning on someone having to take care of us? There may be nobody to take care of us. So I think it's a big question. I think it's a valid question.
What about supplement quality? Do you test for that?
What's that?
Supplements and their quality, do you test for it?
What I do is I look at the companies that I get it from and I look at their testing. Yes. Yeah, you want to check and make sure, because you want to I look at ingredients. I also look at how, like essential oils. You want an essential oil that is extracted, harvested at the highest nutritional level. And there's a lot of companies out there that don't. Let's go back to the farm. Hay. Who's put up hay? Okay. You got a bell curve in nutrition. It's going to rain at the top of the bell curve. You're in trouble. Daddy would pray that it was not rain at the top of the bell curve when it's most nutritious. Because if you cut it here, then you don't have quite as much nutrition. If you have to wait until after the rain, you've dropped in nutrition. And you need that quality of nutrition for the livestock. When you pick your tomatoes for your tomato sandwich, do you pick a green tomato? That's how they pick tomatoes that grow into the store. They're green with just a dash of red. That's perfect when they want to pick it. They don't pick it where it's, just, you know what I'm talking about. It's just perfect. And you want it vine ripe. Well, the same thing is true when you do essential oils. When they harvest the essential oils, you want to have it picked when it's highest nutrition, medicinally, because then it's going to drop off again. And so you want to choose a company that tests the plant material and knows when it's at highest nutrition, and that's when it's harvested. Not just go out and harvest it at certain days. It's you test the actual plant material to see what's the chemical, and they have a laboratory that they can test it. And there's places that do that. Even on the herb side, there's places that do that, and they harvest at highest nutrition. And that's what you're looking for. Yes? We can talk later.
Another question from the audience. How do you help people with too low of a BMI or very elderly people to gain weight?
Yes. One is you need to eat. And one of the challenges that we find in geriatrics is a loss of appetite. And the first thing that we would do, even on the medical side, when I worked in regular health care, was we would give multivitamins. And those multivitamins would help to increase appetite. We also use things like, you can use things like smell. What's it called? Like you have color therapy, but then you have aromatherapy. And you can have things that the smell of food that can, like the baking of bread, and it can make a person, how if a person cooks, makes a pot of coffee, it makes somebody want the cup of coffee. Not me, but people who drink coffee. Or you bake a loaf of bread and go, yeah, I'd like a loaf of bread, or eat a piece of bread. And you can do that kind of thing if you're working with someone in your home, and by having that aroma, that can help with it. To gain weight, Dr. Phil Collins taught me to use avocados and to use olives. You can use a can of olives a day, but wash it well. Wash it twice, because olives are soaked in salt brine. And so you want to wash those olives twice in two different times to get that salt off for the sodium. And then you can split that can of olives between however many meals they eat a day. What I used to do for patients isn't healthy. I would do the bad stuff, the ice creams and that kind of stuff, but you don't want to do that kind of thing. And so God's given us nuts, seeds that can help to put on a little weight. First thing, you got to make sure that person's eating. And a lot of times as a person gets older, they start cutting back and they just don't eat as much. And so you want to figure out how to entice them to eat that food. They're just not eating the calories to start with.
Are there herbs that will increase the hunger?
There is. I'm trying to think. There is some herbs. I know if you, what? Tansy will? Excellent. I know if you want to reduce the desire for eating, we use, I just had it. You can tell my brain's starting to get tired. It's not catnip. I'll think of it. But so tansy's good for it, you say? Good. Okay.
First of all, charcoal.
Chickweed. If you want to not be hungry, eat chickweed. That'll take the hunger away. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you make your own charcoal?
You can.
Just with good quality wood, no paint, stuff like that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And then...
now, there's a difference in charcoal and activated charcoal.
Yeah, what is the difference?
Okay. So what happens is you can make your own charcoal where you just take make charcoal, and you take the charcoal and you just make a fire. And that's what blacksmiths used to use years ago, and they just took wood out, the charcoal out. But if you want activated charcoal adsorbs better. And so the way you do that is you make a condition where you lower the oxygen. Do y'all know what a backdraft is? A backdraft is where you have a fire, and the fire utilizes up the oxygen to the point at which the oxygen level goes below 16%, the fire goes out, and it goes into a smolder. You open that door, and literally I've seen the door blown off the hinges and someone blown off the porch because they didn't break a window and they opened the door. And it was better to blow out the window than out the door. You can blow a whole front end of the house off with a backdraft when you add that oxygen. So what they do is they use that concept. Is they put it, you can either dig a hole, start a fire, get a fire going really good, put a piece of tin across the top of it, like from a tin roof, and then put dirt on it. And then as it smolders down, and then a couple days later, you can go back and get it. And then that smoldering process, because under that tin, as it went under 16%, it now goes into smolder stage. And it's in that smoldering stage that it then becomes activated. And they have buildings that do that. You put the wood in there, and then they have the fire going really well. They shut down the air supply to it. It goes into smolder, and that's how they make activated charcoal.
Great. Okay, I have a 94-year-old mother with acute restless leg syndrome. She's on Parkinson medication for it, which actually causes restless leg syndrome. So she's needing increased more and more medication.
Yes.
She's also on a pain patch, and there's times I can't help her with pain. She has what we call jitters, which can be caused by pain. She might look like someone that's coming off of drugs at times. And I just, is there anything, I know you talked about something for pain with the curcumin or,
I'd back up a little. I would go to look at the cause of the restless leg. 75% of restless leg is due to magnesium deficiency. Number 2 is dehydration. Number 3 is potassium deficiency. Number 4 is iron deficiency. We're seeing iron deficiency, as we mentioned a little bit ago, going up. The ER doctors noticing more patients are coming in with iron deficiency because they're eating processed foods, they're not eating their greens. So exactly where that 75% is, I'm not sure. But if you want to rank order and hit it hard, try magnesium first to bowel tolerance. Now, I had a guy that came in and he presented, I just felt it was magnesium. I just didn't see it was dehydration. I didn't see it was potassium. I didn't see it as iron. From what the history showed, it really looked like magnesium. But he could only handle, at 400 milligrams, he had loose stool. So I called a friend of mine up here in Washington, and I said, I've got this guy. He's got restless leg. I really believe it's magnesium deficiency, but he has a low bowel tolerance. He said, did you try magnesium oil? And I said, what is it? So he sent it to me. And he sent it to me as a spray. Now, I like the rollerball better. Spray has more overspray, and if it doesn't have aloe in it, it kind of feels like a bunch of centipedes crawling all over you. And the aloe kind of helps that. And so I like the rollerball better. And so you just rub that area proactively before they go to, was it when she goes to bed?
Oh, it can be
all the
anytime.
time. Yeah.
I think it could be food allergies that start it.
Yeah.
Anxiety can start it.
So I would try the magnesium first. Have it go, if she has a good bowel tolerance, have her take as much as she can tolerate. Give her 400 milligrams 2-3 times a day.
Now, would that be, is it magnesium glycinate?
You can do that, or you can do citrate.
Oh,
either one.
Okay.
I use citrate a lot, but you can use the glycinate also. And then does she drink plenty of water?
Well, she has to take a pill every 3 to 4 hours, and she drinks quite a bit to get it down because she has a small throat.
How much does she weigh?
114.
How much water? So that means she needs a half a gallon just to sit on the couch. Does she drink half a gallon?
I think by the end of the day, well, no, not that much.
Get her up to a half a gallon. That could help. Her potassium, how's her potassium?
The doctors don't say that she's low.
Okay, try the magnesium first.
She was on an iron.
Okay.
And I give her an iron pill just once every couple of weeks because they said it was okay now.
So does that mean she had a propensity for low iron?
Maybe.
So I'd look at, say, blackstrap molasses, 1 tablespoon twice a day, and then Hemoplex works a great product. It's a product 85 milligrams of elemental iron. One of those a day. It's by Nature's Plus. But I'd look at those 4 areas: magnesium, hydration, potassium, and the iron. Make sure those are good first, because that's the top 4.
Okay.
And see from the restless leg, then you can have the other issues, and you want to correct that first.
One naturopath told her to take taurine in between meals, but I didn't see much difference.
Okay. And here's the thing. If it doesn't do anything, then don't keep doing it. Keep working on something else till you can find out what it is.
Yeah.
What about adding raw garlic?
Raw what?
Garlic.
Raw garlic? I don't know. You could try. It ain't going to hurt nothing.
Well, that alum or whatever you said.
The
I
Alamed?
want some of that. Yeah. Yeah, she does garlic. She can't take cranberries. She's allergic to cranberries, so I have to use garlic for if she's starting to get a UTI or something. So.
Okay.
Thank you.
Have you tried D-mannose?
No, that's cranberry, I thought.
It could come from blueberries.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, the mother-in-law that I take care of, 96, she takes that every day.
Yes. Yeah, because D-mannose is also in blueberries.
Okay.
Yes, there's a hand back here. Okay.
To increase lung function.
Okay. Is the O2 sats low?
I don't know.
Okay? Just want to increase lung function. Mullein is the best thing I know to increase lung function. Also, we know that dehydration affects lung function. Also, diaphragmatic breathing is good. And so deep breathing, don't hyperventilate, but do some deep breathing throughout the day. You can try a spirometer and see if the spirometer will help also. You can get that from a PT, and that can increase lung function. But you want to find out, why is there lung function issues? Is it just the lungs themselves, or is there something going on with the heart that's causing lung function? It's like congestive heart failure, that you're having backup of fluid into the lungs, and now you're having lung issues because of another problem.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Walt, is it possible to drink plenty of water, but it's not actually doing its job?
Yes.
So somebody may be drinking 8 glasses or, a lot of water, and it's passing through their system. So can you explain that a little bit?
Yes, and that's where the issue of free flow is. Where you're just taking a sip of water. That much, say 4 different times every half hour. You're definitely going to be better saturated there. When you're drinking more than 2 to 3 ounces, you're prone to have the free flow.
Now, is there something like a little piece of salt that you can put in your mouth to dissolve? Explain that to me.
Yeah, Barbara talks about that a lot, putting some Celtic salt in there, and that can be beneficial.
Wow, we've had a wonderful time together, haven't we? God is so good, and we are blessed. Thank you, Walt Cross.
You're welcome.
We're very appreciative. So if any of you feel so inclined, we will have a couple of baskets at the door, and we will give him all the collection of money and offerings before he goes back to compensate for his time with us. And we want to keep him in our prayers, don't we, for his energy and for his ministry. And maybe all of us can move a few steps ahead in the way we take care of ourselves and those around us, right?
Can I give online?
What's that again?
Can I give online?
You could probably, can he give online? You could probably send some money.
I don't know if we can, but I'm not sure if we have that set up or not.
Yeah, I don't know if that's an option, but certainly you could mail him a check or something like that, right? That's another option if you don't have something on you right now. Are you able to scan that QR code there? Okay. His website is mustardseed.us. Is that right?
The mustard.us.
Yeah, we have some cards up here. So make sure you get up here and get a card if you'd like one. Got a nice little stack right here. You can reach out to him that way.
You're welcome.
And so this will be on State Line Advent Media, this recorded series that you can go back and watch. I don't know about you all, but I couldn't write all those notes down, so I'll definitely be going back and watching it again. So that's a real blessing that we were able to record that. He does have videos available through his website that you can link in, or just go to YouTube directly as well. So, and he has a health food store, and he and his son and his wife work there. You can call in and talk to one of them, and they've got 3,500 products, so many good quality products. You can call and ask them what they have, or tell them what your issue is, and see what they recommend. So a good resource. All right, and if you want to continue in the health journey, again, the third Monday night of every month, we do have a meeting in the fellowship center here at State Line Church, so please join us. We go through a lot of these same things in smaller doses. Let's go ahead and close with prayer. Lord God, we are blessed beyond belief, and we just ask that you would send each person home safely, that you would help us all to think about and remember the things that we've learned and to implement them, Lord. Impress upon each of our hearts what of these things we need to put into our own lives, and help us to keep our eyes open for ways that we can reach out to others through these healing methods that we've been taught. We thank you so much. Please bless and strengthen Walt Cross. In Jesus' name, amen.
Hello, friend. My name is James Ash, and I want to personally thank you for watching our program today. If you would like to see more videos just like this, all you have to do is go to satelineadventmedia.org, and you can watch to your heart's content. And oh, by the way, don't forget to click the like, share, and subscribe buttons on each one of our various platforms. Because you see, my friend, this helps us reach more people with the good news of Jesus' soon return. Ministries like this require large teams of people. You would be amazed if you were to see how many people are required to produce each one of our programs. And if you would like to join with us by becoming a ministry partner, you can actually help us reach the unreached with the gospel. All you have to do is go to satelineadventmedia.org/donate, and you can give us a much-needed boost. Most importantly of all, friend, we need your prayers. I assure you that the devil does not like this ministry, and your prayers are what protect and direct what we do here. Once again, thank you from the bottom of our hearts.